Well, we get it rolling bright and early on a Sunday morning out here on the West Coast, midday on the East Coast. Hope everybody's having a great day. Maybe not if you're a Warrior fan, because last night goes to the Sacramento Kings, a 126-123 Kings victory in Game 1 of the first round of the NBA playoffs, and who better to discuss it with than the longtime voice of the Sacramento Kings and one of the most astute NBA observers in the country. Grant Napear is in the house on the Krueg Show. Grant, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you. What a classic of an NBA playoff game. I mean, game one of the NBA playoffs, it really doesn't get better than that. That was an incredible spectacle in Sacramento, an incredible environment, and the game coming down to the last possession. I mean, I don't think fans could have asked for anything more.
Well, what did you think was the key to Sacramento's victory? Or if you want to look at it from the other perspective first, Golden State's defeat. Did anything stand out to you before I start leading you around to what I observed?
Andrew Wiggins looked better than I thought. I know his three-point shooting was not there, but I think he's going to be a big factor in this series moving forward. He was better than I expected. I mean, you know what you're going to get from Curry and Thompson. I mean, you asked me what really stood out to me. There were two things that stood out to me. One was De'Aaron Fox, and the other was the Sacramento bench. I mean, Trey Lyles was incredible, Malik Monk, and I thought Alex Len's minutes were very valuable to Sacramento. So, we talked about the benches, right? You and I both thought that the difference in these, well, not one of the difference, but one of the differences, we thought the Warriors had a better bench. I mean, the Kings bench last night was outstanding. That, along with De'Aaron Fox. I mean, Fox is an all-star. Last night, he started an elevation towards superstardom. Now, that's only one game, but I think the rest of the country saw how special this young man is.
Well, it's funny. He has been awesome in the fourth quarter. He was awesome in the fourth quarter last night. My one beef, and we brought this up on the post game show last night, was just that Kerr rested Curry in more than Brown rested Fox. And when Curry went out late third quarter, the Warriors had a 4-point lead.
Yep.
By the time he checked back in, the Warriors were down 5. And that huge 9-point swing right there, which coincided at the end of the third quarter when the Kings went on a 15-4 run, largely fueled by Trey Lyles and some second chance points. Yep. He had 10 points in that 15-4 run. I thought that was kind of the momentum shift right there. And, Warriors clearly had their chances down the stretch. Heck, Wiggins had a great look at a 3 with about 10 seconds on the clock. But to me, that was a huge momentum swing. Should Kerr have played Curry bigger minutes? I mean, and should he play him bigger minutes? Basically, I mean, I know the game plan is like, keep his minutes in line because it's a long playoff run. But guess what? It ain't a long playoff run if you lose in the first round.
Not only that, you have off now after tomorrow's game. You don't play again until Thursday, and then you don't play again until Sunday. So I don't think fatigue should be an issue in any way, shape, or form. I really thought the Warriors should have had a bigger lead than they did at half. They were up 61-55, and the Kings shot the ball very poorly in that first half, particularly from downtown, right? And so, Larry, to me, I thought the Warriors, I don't want to say they lost the game in the second quarter because that's crazy, but they should have had more than a 6-point lead at halftime. But you're right about that. When Curry's out of the game, the Warriors had no answer for Sacramento. And I thought that was a pivotal stretch, as you said, end of the third quarter. You got to remember the Warriors were up 10 at one point in the third, right? Kings made a couple of baskets. I think the lead was 6.
Right? Yeah, it was 67-57
right.
Golden State.
Right. Then then Steph comes out of the game. Kings ended up leading by 1 going into the fourth quarter. That was huge.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, my first takeaway is, man, what a great game. What a great atmosphere. I'll say this too. I don't know how the Kings fans did it, but they found a way to have a Warrior playoff game 95 miles away from Golden State's arena, and yet only a handful of Warrior fans got in that place.
I was shocked.
How did that happen?
I don't know, because the secondary market is a market you can't control. You don't know who's buying your tickets. I'm blown away. Those were the most expensive tickets ever for, an opening game in the playoffs, right? You saw that. So I don't know. I mean, we know that the people in the Bay Area, and I don't want to stereotype or generalize, but generally they have some pretty deep pockets. So, you know what? I'm going to be curious. I'm going to see on Thursday what's the makeup of the crowd? How many Sacramento fans will be in attendance? I also wonder this, Larry. Maybe you think I'm crazy, but this is old hat for the Warriors. It's like, a lot of the Warrior fans are probably thinking, well, gee, they're in the first round. Oh, big deal. You know what I mean? Like, they win championships every year. So maybe that's part of it. And maybe a lot of the Sacramento Kings fans, the season ticket holders, said, hey, we've been waiting since 2006 for this moment. We're not selling our tickets. So that could be part of it as well.
Well, you've seen baseball with the Atlanta Braves, during their incredible run in the 90s. They had many, many early round playoff games that were totally empty there. Now, granted, that's Atlanta, GA, totally different deal. The Warrior fan likes to think of themselves as incredibly passionate, but the Warriors have been on top, and they've had a lot of playoff runs. Where Sacramento, this is new, the newness of it. Maybe the secondary market was just, packed with their fans, but I don't know how they somehow got in front of everybody else to get those tickets.
Well, I would also say that,
unless somebody who sold the tickets was like, hey, you know what, we're selling predominantly to Kings fans.
Hey,
I don't know.
Well, Larry, let me ask you, because I've been having a big debate on this on my shows. I don't think it matters to the Warriors. They've been through it all. They've seen it all. I mean, I think it's more of, does it really help Sacramento? And I'm not even sure of that, because, Larry, the Kings have had sellout crowds most of the year, and they had a bad home record. I mean, their last 2 home games, Larry, they lost to Minnesota with a chance to clinch a playoff spot. And then the next home game after clinching a playoff spot in Portland, where everybody was ready to celebrate and welcome them home, they lost to San Antonio at home, and both were full. So, again, the crowd was at a peak last night. But to the Warriors, that doesn't matter to the Warriors. That doesn't affect the Warriors, how many fans are at the game. I think it's more of probably a positive for Sacramento than any type of a negative it could have been for Golden State. And even with that said, I don't think it had a bearing on the outcome of the game.
Of course, welcome to the Krueg Show. If you're just checking in, bright and early on a Sunday morning, Grant and Napear in the house. We're talking about last night's Game 1 between the Warriors and the Sacramento Kings. And thanks to our title sponsor, Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. 2 locations. They're in Corte Madera, open 7 days a week, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., and they're also open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. All right. This is an interesting stat. Since 2013, the Warriors are 30-10 following a playoff loss.
Yeah.
It's the highest winning percentage after a loss in that span. Do you expect them to bounce back and win Game 2?
Of course I do. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
you don't. I mean, let me ask it this way: is this game more important to the Warriors or more important to the Kings? Is it more important for the Kings to chances to win the series to go up 2-0, or is it more important for Golden State to go 1-1 back home?
Yeah, I think it's equally as important for this reason. The Warriors won 33 games at home this year, but the Kings won more road games than any team in the Western Conference this year. The Kings feel very confident playing on the road. As a matter of fact, Larry, you could make the argument the Kings were a better team this year on the road than at home. But with that said, they haven't faced anything that they're going to face coming into Game 3. Listen, Warrior, I know a lot of fans here in Sacramento are pumped up. I get that. I think maybe some of them are walking around with blinders on because they won the game last night. Larry, I really mean this. If the Warriors go down 3-11 this series, I'm still not going to say this series is over. This team, no, you know what, Larry? This team has seen it all. They've done it all. They have Hall of Famers on their roster. And once this team gets on a roll, Larry, they're really difficult to stop. Now, I'm not saying the Kings can't win this series, although you and I, before the series began on my show, we predicted the Warriors to win this series. I still think the Warriors are going to win this series. But what the Kings did last night, I think, opened up eyes around the NBA that they are a legitimate threat in the West. I mean, think about this. The Kings beat the Warriors last night with Sabonis having an off game, with Herter not making a 3, with their rookie, who's been very good this year, Keegan Murray, being a non-factor, and yet the Kings still beat the Warriors. Now, if I'm looking at this from Sacramento's perspective, Larry, I put that as a real positive.
Oh, there's no question. Yeah, I mean, Sabonis will be better. Murray will be better. There's just no question in my mind. The question I would have is, how did Malik Monk go for 32? He had 15 points in that second quarter. I brought up the Boston Strangler on the post-game show, Andrew Toney, because I can't remember too many guys that, there's always been explosive scorers off the bench, but there's very few guys that can come off the bench and give you 30 or 40 like Toney used to. But this guy really is a fill-it-up scorer, and when he's feeling it, man, it's like he's just you can't turn his water off.
No, you
What's
can't.
the adjustment that Kerr can make to try to slow down Monk going forward? Because I'll say it right now, if Monk continues to go for 30 off the bench,
they're going to
Kings
win.
will win this series.
I agree. And, he's like a lot of scores where it's going to be Jekyll and Hyde. So there are stretches this year where Malik Monk was very ineffective and poor. But, again, you hit it right on the head. I mean, if he's going to have that kind of production, the Kings will win. I mean, think about that. They don't win last night without that type of production and Trey Lyles. And I thought Alex Len, in terms of the adjustments, that's a great question. You have one day off to figure it out. As you said, the Warriors, the number you just gave me, would you say 30-10 following the loss in the playoffs?
30-10 after a loss since 2013.
Well, there you have it. And what else do we know about the Warriors? And you brought this point up that I was not aware of when you were on my show a couple of days ago. The Warriors have always won at least one road game in the playoffs since Steve Kerr has been coaching there. So why would I think that is going to change all of a sudden? I think the Warriors will win a game in Sacramento. The question is it going to be game 2? Is it going to be a game 5 or game 7? Then that becomes the big question is, okay, can the Kings go and win a game in San Francisco against a team that was really, really good at home this year in 33 wins? That to me is the factor because Larry, if you tell me, if you and I are doing a show a week from now or 2 weeks from now, the game 7 is on the 30th, okay? Let's say this series goes to distance and you and I talk the next day and we say, wow, the Warriors did not win a game in Sacramento in this whole series. That would shock me. That would really shock me.
I think it would shock a lot of Warrior fans. Let me ask you this. I'm not a huge fan of this guy, but he did throw it out in the postgame on ESPN, and that's Michael Wilbon. And Wilbon threw out he could picture this series being basically Kings go 2-0, Warriors go 2-0 at home,
Mm-hmm.
Kings win game 5 at home, Warriors win game 6 at home, and then it comes down to a game 7 on the road in Sacramento, and he says he could picture the Warriors winning that game 7 on the road in Sacramento.
All right, I'll tell you this. The Warriors would be
favored.
The Warriors would be the favorite. I don't know if they'd be a favorite in Vegas, but they'd be a favorite. Most people would pick the Warriors to win a game 7 on the road in Sacramento. Don't you think?
I would say so, but it really kind of depends on what the rest of this series looks like in the lead up for sure. I mean, if Sacramento, wouldn't that be apropos if we get that? If we get a game 7 Warriors Kings, man, I'm rooting for that. The more I think about it, the more I think, wow, that might just set this rivalry up for the next 5 years.
It could. The difference is I don't know how long the rivalry is going to last with Golden State because I don't know how long Curry and Thompson are going to be with the Warriors and playing, right? The Kings have a young nucleus. That's the difference. De'Aaron Fox is young. Sabonis is young. They have some nice pieces. Keegan Murray obviously is a rookie. So I'm not sure if the rivalry would last that long. But I would say this, a game 7 in this series would be off the charts. Now, I was doing the games in 2002 when the Kings played the Lakers and that rivalry, and that was incredible. But the Kings could never get over the Lakers. They could never beat the Lakers. And so, game 7 would be absolutely unbelievable. I'll even fast forward. And again, I know we're putting the cart ahead of the horse. Let's say this series goes 7 and the Kings win. Is that the end of the Warriors dynasty as we know it?
I don't think so. I mean, you got a self-made billionaire. You still got a place that people want to play. They still have a number of talented players.
Do you really think people want to play in San Francisco now with all the problems going on?
I don't know about San Francisco, but that's a great question. I do think that they want to. Well, I think San Francisco is kind of the center of the left, and the NBA is there's a lot of people leaning left. So I would say maybe the view. I'll say this: the baseball players sure as hell don't. It does, but it didn't bother Javon Hargrave, to come to the Niners, but Javon, but maybe that's because they're in Santa Clara. What did you think of the defense of Klay Thompson? We got an interesting comment here in the chat that I think is this one's kind of interesting from Cody. He says, huge Sacramento, I hope Sacramento keeps attacking Klay Thompson. He's not the same defender he once was. I mean, that's an easy comment in a lot of ways. The guy had a blown Achilles, a blown knee.
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to be the same after that? He's long in the tooth. But did you see any deficiency from Thompson on the defensive end last night?
It's hard to, first of all, I don't even know how to characterize deficiency when you're talking about the highest scoring team in the league in Sacramento. Like when the Warriors have been winning championships, they were the highest scoring team in the league, right? So if you can't stop them, is that a deficiency, or is it because the team is so good offensively? Do we really expect like the Warriors to be a defensive stopper against the Kings or to make life that difficult on them? I mean, no one's been able to do that with Sacramento all the year. So why would I think the Warriors are going to be able to do it? Do I think Klay Thompson? I'll ask the question this way, and I want to get your answer. Is Klay Thompson a liability on the floor? And to me, the answer is an absolute positively no. He's not a liability on the floor. That's crazy.
No, he's not a liability.
No.
It's just a matter of, does he have the lateral quickness that, to hang with these guys in the backcourt? Monk's undersized.
No.
Fox can beat anybody to any spot at any point. What's interesting to me about Fox is that I think if you went back in time and tried to pick up Sabonis, I think most Kings fans at the time were like, man, I wish they would have kept Tyrese Halliburton and included Fox in that trade.
Yep.
Would the Kings look the same right now if they had Halliburton running the show instead of Fox?
I don't know if they would be as high scoring, but Halliburton was tremendous all-star this year for the Pacers, and he is a budding big-time star as well. They would look different. Fox has been the best fourth-quarter player in the NBA this year. I don't think the Kings could be this good without Fox's heroics. I mean, look at what he did again last night in the fourth quarter, Larry. He's done that all season. When you can do that when the game is on the line, that's big time special. Yeah, I'm not so sure Halliburton could do that. Halliburton's a really good player.
Yeah,
it would just be a different look altogether. We'll never know the answer to that question.
What do you think of the career arc so far of Fox? He came into the league, a lot of fanfare as far as the way he was playing. He looked electric.
Yep.
Then he kind of lost favor for some reason.
Yes, he did.
And then this year under Mike Brown, Brown has empowered him. Fox, I would say, is more vital to their turnaround than probably any individual player. The way he plays, the speed, he reminds me of a young Kevin Johnson going baseline to baseline. What do you think? I mean, how did Fox struggle after his initial breakthrough?
All right, I'm going to go to the second part of that, and then we'll back up. De'Aaron Fox became the player that he is today the second the Kings acquired Domantas Sabonis. Fox's game changed the minute Sabonis walked into the gym. So I credit Sabonis' arrival as a domino effect on De'Aaron Fox. If you go back and look last year before they shut Fox down at the end of the year, he had elevated his game. I thought Fox had been disappointing based on expectations in the first 5 years. I thought last year, before the trade, his attitude was bad, his body language was bad, his press conferences were erratic, and I criticized him because wait a minute, the Kings just backed up the Brinks truck and gave you a max deal, and this is the way you're at. And he got criticized by a lot of Sacramento fans. They would be calling, my programming and complaining about him. And you hit it right on the head, Larry. Let's back up now to last February. Most Sacramento fans wanted Fox to go instead of Halliburton. Can you imagine if you asked that question now about do you want De'Aaron Fox on the team or not? Again, Sabonis' arrival changed De'Aaron Fox. So what has been the big difference this year? First of all, he's playing with incredible confidence. Number two, he's been healthy all year. I mean, he's only missed a handful of games. And that mid-range jumper, if you want to call it, when he gets to the spot on the floor, no one can stop him, Larry. Look at how many points this guy scores from with 18 feet. He gets into the lane. He gets into the key. He stops. He's got that floater. And he can't be stopped. I haven't seen any team stop him because, as you said, he can get anywhere he wants on the floor. I even heard, I'm sure you covered this last night, Draymond Green's podcast, right? And other Warrior players just talking about they can't really contain De'Aaron Fox. So I'll ask you, what adjustment do the Warriors make on trying to minimize De'Aaron Fox's effectiveness, because no team has been able to do that this year. What are the Warriors going to do tomorrow that's going to be different?
I mean, maybe more minutes of GP2 on him. I don't know what the answer is. Maybe you guard him with a bigger bodied guy to try to bother him. Maybe you try to throw some minutes of Kuminga on him. I don't know what the answer is. To me,
run right around Kuminga.
You know what he runs? You know what he reminds me of watching Fox? He reminds me of a younger, healthier Chris Paul, because Chris Paul can settle at the shoulder. This guy settles at the shoulder. Chris Paul squares up the shoulders in the mid-range. He's not necessarily a three-point guy, but what he does is he makes a high percentage of twos, or at least did when he was really rolling. And he's got the ability to go by you and get all the way to the rim, and he's got the ability to find other people. And it seems like Fox has got all those traits as well. He can find other people. He can beat you baseline to baseline. And then if you start retreating, he can pull up on a dime, body control, square the shoulders, get to the elbow, and knock that shot down repeatedly. And that's the part that is so difficult. It's the explosiveness, the speed, which creates the space, and then he can shoot right there with he's got good mechanics. He's got his eyes focused in the back of the rim, and he's knocking that thing down. To me, I think the only thing that can bother him, and I don't know where they're going to get it from, but the only thing that can bother him is added length to the defender. If you have a real long-arm defender who can somehow extend on him and make that, I mean, that's where Peyton, I think, might be the answer, but he might foul Peyton out. I mean, he's that quick, he's that elusive. His body control is so much better than almost all the guys defending him. I mean, that's what I see. I mean, I don't see what else are you going to do.
No, you know what? Here's the deal. You have to hope he has one of those games where he's not shooting the ball well from perimeter, and then you can play him a little bit differently, because he's an erratic three-point shooter. But if he's making his threes on a game, he's very difficult. By the way, you just mentioned, I think I thought the game was very well officiated last night.
Yeah,
The reason why I'm bringing that up is this has not been a good year for the officials. I think we can agree on that.
Yes.
It was not a good year for the NBA officials. I thought the crew last night, Larry, was outstanding. I got to give them a pat on the back, and I think you got to call it the waiters. I thought it was very well officiated.
I'm a big fan of Malloy.
Yeah, me too. Ed Malloy's good.
Yeah, he's a good official. Okay, here's the other thing that I noticed that I think there's an easy counter to, but we didn't see it last night, and it's kind of frustrating. The Kings decided, you know what? We're going to do what other teams don't do. We're going to effectively guard Clay and Steph at the three-point line, 20, 25 feet away from the bucket. We're going to extend our defense. I don't know if you want to call it a zone. Basically, they're willing to get out right at the three-point line and crowd Steph Curry. And he started taking some deep threes, and he's so incredible that he made a few of them. How about the corner three that he had late where he got fouled? They had no call. That was kind of not a great call. But here's my counter to that. If Sacramento wants to extend that deep on the floor, that creates a ton of room in the middle of the floor. And the Warriors have in Wiggins and Kuminga two athletic 6'8" finishers. Neither of them, I mean, I guess Wiggins has pretty good handle. Kuminga doesn't have the handle to get from that mid-range to the rim with any consistency. But to me, the obvious solution to watching those guys extend that defense is slip Draymond Green around the free throw line or the top of the key, throw it to him, and have him take one dribble or just throw the lob to Kuminga, or throw a bounce pass to Kuminga or Wiggins going to the hole, and just carve that up and make them play honest. Right now, there's so much room there, and I didn't think Golden State took advantage. That, to me, is the obvious counter to – you want to extend 22 feet? Fine. You're going to leave all this room in the middle of the floor. Draymond's going to, carve you up on passes to Wiggins and Kuminga. We never saw it. We never saw it.
So we talked a lot about Mike Brown, right? Mike Brown knows the Warriors inside out. And I really thought that was a Mike Brown. Okay, he has his idea of the best way to contain the Warriors backcourt. So we always know playoffs is a chess match. You see adjustments. I've always said this, Larry. One game in the NBA has nothing to do with the next. All right? It just doesn't. I expect that both teams are going to have different adjustments tomorrow. I can't imagine game 2 tomorrow being like game 1 in terms of the flow and everything else. You make an interesting point because the Warriors are going to have to make some adjustments with that, and that's part of a playoff series. And I think this is now going a long playoff series. I mean, I know a lot of
Yeah.
people thought this could
Myself.
go, and again, it could still, but I think that's unlikely now, don't you?
Well, I mean, I see this. I see this series as the Kings are gonna. I thought there was a very good chance the Warriors wanted to win Game 1 to try to set a tone. Didn't happen. Kings got Game 1. I wouldn't surprise me if the Kings got Game 2. And today is a big day for Kings fans to puff out their chest and talk a lot of smack. And guess what? Monday night, I think if they go up 2-0, you're going to hear even more of it.
And you should.
And you should. But I think that's premature because I think Golden State they're very mentally and emotionally resilient. They've been through it before, and they're not going to panic down 0-2. They're going to fire in Game 3. They're going to come back in the series, and they're going to make it a series. I would be very, very shocked if Golden State didn't, really come back in this series and make it a deep series. I think
absolutely.
I don't think Sacramento's going to beat them 3-1, 4-0. Some kind of. It's going to be Golden State's going to come back. I don't know if it'll be in Game 2,
barring an injury. We're talking about one of the great teams of all time. I'm sorry, but that's how I characterize the Warriors. Okay, I think this is one of the best teams in the history of the league. So, and I don't put a lot of stock into what happened during the regular season, and they were a 6th seed. They're a lot better than a 6th seed, okay? We know why. So I'm with you on all of that. The Warriors are still, they're going to do what they need to do to have a chance to win this series, whether it's in Game 5, 6, or 7. And I'm with you, Larry. I mean, would there be anything better for this area, Northern California, Sacramento, the Bay Area, these two franchises, which we've talked about, they've never been good in the same year since the Kings arrived in Sacramento in 85. That would be just off the charts, a Game 7 on April 30th in Sacramento. So that's what I'm hoping for. And listen, the Warriors aren't going away, Larry. You and I both know that. They're not going away.
Yeah, no, I don't expect them to, but Sacramento, this, it's funny, Grant. People ask the question coming into this series. Man, does the regular season mean something, or are the Warriors going to flip a switch? And I think what we got was the answer here, which is, the regular season doesn't mean everything, but this idea that you can flip a switch and immediately everything goes, switches around, that wasn't realistic. We got a very competitive basketball game,
yes,
where Golden State looked far better than they did in the regular season, but they didn't. This idea they're going to flip a switch and that the regular season means nothing, that also was an erroneous idea. So, I guess we got the answer there. It's like neither. To me, the one area that was kind of interesting is both teams turned it over roughly the same amount.
Yeah,
15 for Golden State, 13
and the Warriors
turnovers.
Make a lot of unforced turnovers, don't they? I mean, the Warriors
really
just at times you're watching, you go, what the hell are they doing? I mean, I understand forced turnovers, but their unforced turnovers drive you crazy, Larry.
Oh, I know. You saw it early in the game, the beginning of the game. Curry turned it over right away. No, but I was going to say that it was points off turnovers that was a huge disparity. Sacramento scored 16 points off Golden State turnovers. Warriors only scored 5 points off Kings turnovers. Difference. Yeah, the plus 11 right there was huge. The other area where Golden State has been bad this year at times is points in the paint. And they were minus 16 points in the paint. That's a huge difference right there. That was one area where Sacramento won this game, I thought, the points in the paint.
Well, you were just talking about what the Warriors now need to do if you're going to guard, the backcourt of Golden State that far away from the basket, and you get the ball to Draymond and cut off that, and with Wiggins and Kuminga. I want to ask you, all right, because we didn't know, nobody knew about Andrew Wiggins and how he would look. You've watched Andrew Wiggins play a lot more than I have. What did you think of his performance last night? We know he didn't shoot the ball well from the perimeter, but what was your overall thoughts on him?
I thought he looked really, really good, especially early on. I was like, wow, he's in rhythm. He looks good. My biggest contention with Wiggins is that, My biggest concern with Wiggins is that the 7-week layoff, that he would be rusty, and I wanted to see him not settle for threes, even though he was a 40% three-point shooter when he went out. Acknowledge that, hey, you know what? You've been gone for 7 weeks and your rhythm as a shooter may not be there. Go to the bucket because you'll have energy that other people won't have. And instead, he takes 8 threes and made only 1. I mean, that was.
Would you start him tomorrow, Larry?
Yeah, I think I would. I think I
too.
would start him. I think I would start him and just give a different look. What do you think?
I would too. I mean, listen, he's one of your best players, right? So to me, based on what I saw last night, and the shot didn't fall from the perimeter, but everything else looked in rhythm. I would start him. Absolutely. I mean, it's the playoffs, Larry. You can't be waiting around too much. And obviously, Steve Kerr's a great coach, and I think he has a tremendous handle on the team. But looking at it from afar, I would start Andrew Wiggins in game 2.
A couple things I think need to happen in game 2. The Warriors got to get a little bit more offense out of their front court. I mean, I realize Green and Looney are not offensive players, but Green's got to give you more than 4 points. And even if, it doesn't have to be from the perimeter, it can be, little layups and bunnies and inside stuff, but he's got to score more than 4 points. The other thing is, we got into a debate on the postgame show. Kuminga played 10 minutes. He didn't grab a single rebound. He had 8 points. He had a couple turnovers. He didn't get a lot done. I personally think that his athleticism is so special that I would want to play him more minutes. There were people on the post game that were like, you know what? If anything, I would play him less minutes. I thought Kuminga at the end of the regular season was a 30 minute a night guy. And I would like to see him a little bit more. To me, he is a wild card factor because of his length, his athleticism, his quickness to the balls off the missed deep threes. I think there's, his attacking the hoop can be almost unstoppable when he only has one dribble to go and he can just, bolt right to the rim. What do you think? Do you think they need to play? He only played 10 minutes. Would you?
Yeah, that is a little strange that he only played 10 minutes. But with all of that, you got to remember the Warriors had a chance to take the lead on their second to final possession. Andrew Wiggins 3, wide open shot that he missed. We might be sitting here talking about a Warriors win instead of a loss, and we probably wouldn't even be bringing this up. So even with all of that said, the Warriors still on really what would have been their last possession had a chance to win the game, and they didn't do it. I just think tomorrow, here's what I think for game 2. I don't know how Steve Kerr's going to work the rotation. Maybe Wiggins starts. Maybe, as you were pointing out, we see more minutes there. But I just can't imagine.
How about just in the first half? He only got 4 minutes in the first half.
Is that right? I didn't even notice that. 4 minutes in the first half?
4 minutes. I mean, it's hard to get a flow when you're only playing 4 minutes.
Yeah. Well, the Warriors had the lead 61-55, though. I always look at the score and I look at, okay, well, coach didn't do this, coach did that. Well, okay, with all of that said, the Warriors still had a 6-point lead at the intermission. See, to me, when I look at game 2, I just can't imagine Sabonis being held in check like he was last night. So I think that improves. I'm not ready to say anything about Keegan Murray. He's a rookie. It's his first time in the playoffs. And so I'm not ready to go there. I think Kevin Huerter, he's not going to probably shoot as poorly as he did last night.
That's a great point. Yep.
And so then, okay, if I'm right and Sabonis and Huerter improve and get to the level that we're accustomed to, then what needs to happen from Golden State's perspective for them to be able to win a game 2? All right, so what has to happen? Who are the guys outside of Curry and Thompson? And to me, it's Andrew Wiggins. And so Wiggins, to me, I think starts, and you have to get that type of a game from him to counter where I think you're going to see a much better performance from 2 of the Kings' main guys in Huerter and Sabonis.
I think that's key. Yeah, I do. I would put Wiggins in the starting lineup in game 2 and give him a different look and maybe bring DiVincenzo off the bench. Or would you take Looney off the floor and go smaller and try to go faster?
And by the way, I like DiVincenzo. I think the guy's really good. I mean, he's a smart player. I think the Kings
Efficient, very efficient player.
Yes, very efficient. You could see the difference. He wasn't, the reason why Milwaukee traded him, he had the injury and was ineffective. And, when he's healthy, I think he's a really, really good player. So that's, Larry, this is what's so fun to talk about this, because there will be adjustments in game 2. There will be some lineup changes. If I'm Mike Brown, I don't change anything really.
No.
I mean, what would I change if I'm Mike Brown? I'm saying to myself, if I get that for 3 more games, we're going to win the series.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought his adjustment playing Alex Len was great. I mean, look what he got out of Len. He got 4 points and 7 rebounds and a block shot, a really nice block shot in 13 minutes.
Yeah.
I thought he played well. I thought Harrison Barnes played pretty well. 13 points, 7 boards, another pretty efficient game from Barnes. Yeah, I mean, Barnes, this is a big game for Barnes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big series. I should
know
say,
this.
for Barnes.
Now, again, I know a lot of fans are going back to when Harrison was with the Warriors and won a championship. He's obviously a much more experienced player. Harrison, to me, is the type of player that any good team would want. Okay, he doesn't need the ball to be effective. He's going to do things that don't show up in the box score. He's the first one in the gym every day. He's the last one to leave. He takes care of his body like you cannot believe. This guy, his professionalism is off the charts. It's through the roof.
Great
what
guy.
he does
Great
for
guy.
the best. He's the best. He's a big reason why the Kings the Kings would not be anywhere near where they are today without Harrison Barnes.
Well, and I think he's also a big guy for their chemistry because, it's a young team and they call him the Senator. I mean, I think Jim Barnett might have given him that one. Because he's got this, though these days, I don't know if that would be a good nickname for him. But let me ask you this.
Right.
Somebody sent me a text late last night saying, you know what, it's really going to come down to, the Warriors have an explosive bench scorer. His name's Jordan Poole. The Kings have an explosive bench scorer. His name is Malik Monk. Malik Monk beat Jordan Poole 32-17 in game 1, and the Kings got a 3-point win. That factor has to flip around. Jordan Poole has to have a big night, and Malik Monk's got to be kept in check because Sacramento got 55 points off their bench, but when you look at it closely, it was all Malik Monk for the most part outside of Lyles in that one stretch.
There you have it.
Monk had 32, and we've seen games. I mean, we've seen Monk go for 45.
Yes.
And he did it most of it in the fourth quarter in the overtime off the bench against the Clippers. So he's super explosive. But the Warriors have got to get Poole going on their end, and they got to somehow find a way, whether it be GP2 or somebody else. Somebody's got to slow down Malik Monk.
Well, good luck. I mean, Malik Monk, normally if he is slowed down, will do it by himself. You know what I mean? He's a shooter. He's a scorer, and that's the way it goes. So good luck with that. Again, teams all year have tried to figure out a way to slow down the Kings offensively, and really, even the Milwaukee Bucks couldn't do it when they beat Sacramento in Sacramento last month. The Kings still put up a 120-something. Now, it was a close game with a few minutes left. The Bucks pulled away in the final 90 seconds to win, but their teams are trying to slow down the Kings. And I hate to say this, Larry, the Kings can only slow the Kings down. Their teams are not able to slow down Sacramento. The Kings slow themselves down just by making shots or not making shots. Isn't that what the game is today, Larry, in the NBA? Isn't it really as simple as this? We break down everything. It's, did you make your shots or not? Did you make your 3-ball or not? I mean, that's what the NBA game has come to, correct?
No doubt. Here's one idea from Los D, and I don't know if this is going to be a good idea because this may just invite Keegan Murray to the party. But he says, trap Fox, get the ball out of his hands, let him get the Curry attention and see how he does. Yeah, I mean, teams I'm sure have tried that this year.
Sure
I don't doubt that. How has Fox responded when he's been trapped this year? Because they've got a lot of perimeter shooters, Grant. I mean, there's no question. I mean, you can trap him, you can force him to throw the ball, and maybe that will change the flow. But they still got an awful lot of shooting.
Well, I'll tell you this: the last game the Kings had at home before the Warriors game, where the Kings rested everybody, they were playing the Spurs. The Kings had the ball with a chance to win the game, and Pop ran an extra defender at Fox and made him get the ball out of his hands, and he did. The ball ended up to Herter's hands, and he missed a 3. So I was like, wow, it's about freaking time that a coach is running an extra defender at Fox and making him throw to somebody else where he doesn't beat you because he's been the man for Sacramento in the fourth. And it worked, but
Yeah.
that has not happened a lot this year, Larry. And, on my shows, we're like, gee, how come more teams don't run an extra defender at Fox and a final possession and make somebody else beat you, make somebody else be the man? Again, I saw it, popped at it in the last Spurs game, but we'll see. Hey, listen, you got to try something different, Larry, because what you did on De'Aaron Fox last night, didn't work. So you got to try something different.
One of the factors that I noticed, and I watched the game again late last night, which is why I'm kind of dragging this morning. Fox, when the Warriors, who are the Warriors' best defenders against Fox? It's Peyton and Wiggins.
Yes.
And with those guys sitting, Fox had 10 points in a 5-minute sequence in the third quarter. That right there, I think Steve's going to have to really look at his substitution patterns and figure out, don't give him a big window like that in the second half where he can go against not your one or your two defender against him. Look what he did. He made hay in that situation and kind of got himself dialed in for the fourth. I mean, it's easy to look at that in hindsight, but I just think that, Peyton or Wiggins has got to be on Fox almost at all times if possible.
Well, I understand maybe not having Wiggins on Fox last night that much because you didn't really know about Wiggins. I know you watched him in practice all week, but that's you don't play since February, and now you got to come on and guard De'Aaron Fox. And the other issue with a guy that's been inactive, and again, I don't know what he was doing when he was away from the team workout wise, but it's not the same as playing full court NBA basketball. You got to be worried about groin, hamstrings, and things of that nature. And if you're guarding Fox, that can put a lot of stress on those areas. But again, we always talk about adjustments. We talk about chess match. If you say to me, okay, you know what, Golden State, we might have to sacrifice some offense to stop, or not stop, but to contain Fox, then you do what you have to do. I could see that happening, Larry. If you do that, you are going to sacrifice some other aspect of your game. You got to be realistic about this. So, again, I go back. I hate to keep on repeating myself. Sabonis is going to play better. He's going to be more of a factor. Monk's not going to do what he did in all likelihood. I agree. I think you made a great point about Poole. I think you made a very good point. Again, here's one. Kevin Huerter and Keegan non-existent, and the Kings still won the game. And Sabonis didn't score. So, again, I keep on looking at this. Sacramento won the game with all of those things. What is Golden State going to do tomorrow? Because that's probably not going to happen again in order to even up this series at 1-1. Poole is a guy that, you're right, Larry, going to have to score more. Wiggins going to have to make more threes. Couple of little things. What are they going to do if they're going to guard Steph Curry? I thought you made a great point. Them defending those guys so far on the perimeter, the Warriors are going to have to make an adjustment to tomorrow for game 2.
Yeah, you're going to have to do something. It's like in the NFL. They're blitzing you off the edge. You throw it in the face of the blitz. You go in the spot where they vacated, and that's really in what I'm seeing when I'm watching the Kings extend their defense. I think it's genius of Brown to do it, because what it does is it forces Golden State to react with some wrinkle. Now, they have the best answer there is to this, because they have Draymond Green, who's a 6'8" guy who can pop out to the top of the key, take that entry pass, flip around, and find a cutter or make throw the lob. They're ideally suited to react to this, but they really didn't last night.
The reason you gave a stat in the opening minute of this show about the Warriors being 30-10 following a loss. We've talked about the Warriors winning at least one road game in every series. And the reason why I still think that is going to happen is because they have Steph Curry. The reason why the Warriors are 30-10 following a loss is because they have Steph Curry. I'm looking for Steph Curry to be magical tomorrow. I just am. This is his type of a game. We can talk about Poole, we can talk about Wiggins, we can talk about Thompson. More times than not, when the Warriors have, and they don't have to have the win tomorrow because they know they're going home, but these are Steph Curry moments. And I'm expecting him to have a A+ game tomorrow, Larry. I really am.
I am too. Rob Schneider says, Kings don't sound the same without you, Grant. Okay, I don't want to get you into a battle with Mark Jones. But you don't if you don't want to comment on this,
I'll
don't.
comment.
But But this one was the most laughable comment the entire night. And if Warrior fans were listening closely, they also concur. Sacramento wins the game. Curry shoots the late three. He misses. Kings win game one, 126-123. Mark Jones. The Sacramento Kings have vanquished the Golden State Warriors. Isn't that what you say at the end of the series? Isn't vanquished like the Warriors are dead? I don't know.
All right.
To me, that one bothered me. That call was like. Now, granted, I'm a Warrior fan, and it annoyed me because he was saying it. Period. But that's what you say at the end of the series, not at the end of game one. They didn't vanquish anybody. They took a 1-0 lead in a best-of-7.
For the record,
at home.
Honest on my children's lives, I have not watched one Kings telecast since I left 3 years ago. Okay, when I watch the games, I watch the visiting team's broadcast. I have not watched or listened to 1 second of Kings television. Okay, last night I didn't hear that because I was watching the game on mute. All right. I've never been a fan of Mark Jones before he came to Sacramento, either as a basketball or football announcer. When he used to come on, I'm like, oh God, no. So I'm not a fan of his. It's nothing personal. I don't know him. I've talked to him maybe for 10 seconds. I've had him on my radio show in the past. I've never been a fan of his, but I have not watched 1 second of Kings television since I left. So in terms of that last night, I didn't hear that because I was watching the game without the sound on. I was at a restaurant, Larry, doing my show. And
Bennett's, right? Tell people where you were, and Grant, you've got sponsors in town there, and there's a lot of Kings fans here. Shout out your sponsors here on the Krueg Show, and if where you're going to be, because you're in town. Are you in town for a few days?
Yeah, I'm doing my show. Like tomorrow, I'm going to be in Seoul Street. That's like Seoul, South Korea, Seoul, Seoul Street on L and 16th. It's right next to the Public House, and I'll be doing the pregame, halftime, and postgame shows there on YouTube, just like you do. By the way, I'm only doing this because you won't do it. I've been following you since you started your YouTube channel, and what you've done is amazing. And you should be commended. I know you don't talk about it, but I'm going to tell you because I'm a fan and I watch it. And I think your subscriptions, the fact that you've been able to increase that so quickly is a testament to how many fans you have in the Bay Area. But I have, a plumbing company, New Works Plumbing. They've been with me since October of 2020. They're great. I've got Bennett's. They're a restaurant with 2 locations in Sacramento, Roseville and Fair Oaks. And I did the show from there last night, and it was fabulous and had a great time. I've got a Foster's and Paws, and they're a group of animal advocates. They do a phenomenal job. And then I also have a veterinarian hospital in Auburn. It's called Gold Country Veterinarian Hospital. So I'm blessed like you are to have people that have supported me and the product. And Larry, the one thing that I think you would agree with me, sports media is going to this form. Okay.
Yes.
This is where it's at. Okay. And everybody wants to go on and do their own YouTube show, but you have to have subscribers. You have to have fans. And listen, Larry, let's be honest. If you want to make money, you have to have sponsors. And I see all your sponsors but here's the deal. Sponsors want a return on their money, correct? They want business because they're sponsoring you. And I've been blessed that I've been able to have the companies that are supporting me have their phone ring, have people, use them. And so knock on wood, so far, so good. But I appreciate you, mentioning that. But I will just tell you, and I look at people like you and me and, have had hardships and you bounce back, and that's happened to you twice. And you're always going to bounce back because you're talented. But I enjoy doing this on YouTube, Larry. And
I do too.
I've really enjoyed it. It's such a comfortable, look at us, we're out here in just sweats and stuff. It's a laid back, comfortable, conversational, we can talk for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or for an hour. So like you, if you want to subscribe to my channel on YouTube, it's If You Don't Like That with Grant Napear, my signature phrase. If you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball. So it's If You Don't Like That with Grant Napear. I would love it if you could join me for my programming. Just like Larry's got a lot of great content. We try to do the same thing over on my channel.
Yeah, seriously, everybody in the chat and everybody who sees this video in the next 24, 48, 72 hours, because that's the way these videos grow on YouTube. I want everybody fully endorse this guy. Go join Grant's channel, like it, like his stuff, subscribe to his channel because he puts out awesome content, and his content always has and always will continue to be second to none. Two last things, and we'll let you go.
Yep.
One, do you believe in, I mean, as life goes on, there's always advanced stats. And sometimes I push back on them, but a lot of times it's like, hey, wait a second. When you do the research and you realize, hey, this is a stat where it just takes out the differences in the ballpark, let's say, for baseball. There is a stat called clutch offense, and Sacramento is far and away the number one team in all of the NBA by a wide margin in clutch offense. They're number one by this huge margin. Golden State is 24th in clutch offense.
Yeah.
Is this a factor in your mind in this series, clutch offense? And maybe you know more about the stat than I do.
I really don't know that much about it. It's fourth quarter analytics, and De'Aaron Fox is number one in the league. So listen. With the Warriors, how many games did Steph Curry miss this year, right? How many games did Andrew Wiggins miss this year? The Kings were the healthiest team in the league. So those numbers can be swayed a little bit based on, gee, did you have good luck with injuries or did you have bad luck? Again, the Kings, they lost a handful of games to injuries this year. I've never seen anything like it in all my years of covering the NBA. That wasn't true with the Warriors. All right, so I'll answer the question this way. We talk about clutch offense. So I'm going to give you the Grant Napear version of clutch offense. 2 minutes left, tied game. Okay? In this series last night, with 2 minutes left, and I don't know what the exact score was with 2 minutes left, but it was basically tied. Okay?
Right.
The Kings won. But if you ask me, okay, Grant, let's say for the next 6 games, each game is going to be tied with 2 minutes left. Who's going to win the series? I'm going to pick the Warriors. You know why? Because they have Steph Curry. Before last night, and I said this on my show in the pregame, I said De'Aaron Fox is an all-star. He's not a superstar yet. He's not on the level of Steph Curry. He's not on the level of a superstar. But he took a big step last night. Was that a one-game aberration in the playoffs? Or is that going to be the De'Aaron Fox that we see game in, game out? And if it is, Larry, at the end of this series, assuming that Fox plays the way he did last night, we won't just be calling him an all-star anymore. We'll be calling him a truly elite player in the NBA.
That's what we thought he was when he came out of Kentucky. Because, it looked like, remember the Lakers kicking themselves? Oh, my God, we took the wrong guy, and Fox. And then suddenly, the bloom was off the rose. And now, probably you hit it, the addition of Sabonis. He's a point guard, so he needs to have a support system around him. Now with a better surrounding cast, Fox is elevated.
Well, think about this. He didn't even make the All-Star team. Now think about this. He was not on the All-Star team this year originally. He was added on, I believe, for Curry, right? Because people had him behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, rightfully so.
Yeah.
John Morant, rightfully so. Thompson, and of course, Luka's always going to be on there. But think about this. De'Aaron Fox did not make the All-Star team this year until he was added on because of injury. Right?
Oh, I know. It's an amazing thing.
So that's right. A lot of people don't want to talk about that. But, right now, today, and again, based on how he had played all season, particularly after the All-Star break, and what he did last night. Does anybody that watched De'Aaron Fox think this guy's not one of the best point guards in the league? Oh, guy's unbelievable.
He's a blur. He reminds me a lot of Kevin Johnson.
Yes.
Just that you couldn't stay in front of KJ. And he went baseline to baseline faster than anybody. And so does Fox, except Fox has he's got the ability to kind of stop on a dime, the body control, get to the elbow, and then just rise up, square the shoulders, and knock it down. So it's one last one on the rest of the league. What do you think of the playoffs so far? Philly beat the Nets, the Celtics beat the Hawks. Those aren't surprises, but how about the Knicks going to Cleveland?
I was surprised.
And Brunson, Jason Hart.
I was surprised.
The Knicks are rugged, 101-97. And
That's
then, of
Tom
course,
Thibodeau basketball right there.
yeah, and then now today, Lakers Grizzlies, which I think is going 7. You got Heat Milwaukee today. You get Clippers Suns, T Wolves Nuggets.
Yeah.
Who are you picking in these series?
Well, I'm going to start with the Lakers because I still think without Steven Adams, that's a big loss for Memphis. But I always I look at this. Now, wait a minute, Larry. The Lakers played on Tuesday against Minnesota, who was disheveled without Rudy Gobert, and Minnesota gave that game away. The Lakers were very lucky to win that game. They won it in overtime. So why would I think just because you have LeBron and Anthony Davis that they're going to go and beat Memphis? I still think Memphis, Larry, is going to win this series, and I'm one of the few. I still think they're going to beat the Lakers.
How many games? 7?
Or
do you think it'll be quicker?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Lakers stay healthy, they're going to win games, Larry. Don't you think?
I think it's going 7. I think it's going 7. I think the Lakers are going to move on, but we'll see. I mean,
oh yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, I think the Grizzlies are the better team, but man, I mean,
and Larry, the big. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, I was just going to say that I just think the league so badly wants the Lakers in the second round. I mean, would it be Lakers Kings or Lakers Warriors? Isn't that the matchup?
Yeah, that's the matchup.
Pretty much.
Would, move the needle in the NBA. It would be unfreaking believable. The Lakers against the Warriors in the second round would be through the charts. The way the Kings are playing, that would be incredible. You know what I think the biggest question mark in the West right now, Larry, and you're going to call me crazy for saying this probably, is Denver. Denver was horrible down the stretch. They were 12-11. They didn't play well at all. And now all of a sudden, am I supposed to think that Denver's now just going to roll through the playoffs, which, by the way, they've never done? They're the number 1 seed. Are they a true number 1 seed, Larry? In my eyes, right now, they're not.
Well, the one thing about the Nuggets, and I maybe I'm biased because I saw them, beat Golden State, but I just think that when you look closely at their depth, I mean, at their talent base, every single guy on the team is in the prime of his career almost. I mean, Jokic, Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray. These guys are they're not too young. They're not too old. They added some pieces at the, bench pieces. I mean, it's.
But they played terrible down the stretch, Larry. They didn't play well at all.
No, I know. And what does it mean? I mean, at the end of the day, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. That's a good call. It's like, Denver looked good against Golden State. I would feel a lot of this is about matchups too. Is how do these teams individually match up? Who do you like in Clippers Suns?
The Suns. I think that with Durant there, Booker, Paul, Ayton. Listen, the Clippers have been up and down all year. I'm not sold on the Clippers at all. I'm not. They have not put a string together of what I would call, a few good weeks of basketball. They've been inconsistent, injuries, guys playing, guys not playing. I think the Suns are the better team, Larry. With Durant, the way he's playing, and Booker, and with Paul, the way he's able to dish and everything, I like the Suns to win. I don't think that goes 7. I like the Suns in that series in 5 or 6. What about you?
I like the Suns too. Yeah, the Clippers. I thought the Clippers. Right, the only period of time I thought, man, watch out for the Clippers is right after the trade deadline when they added 3 key bench pieces, and I thought, man, they're gonna have Kawhi and Paul George, and now you add some veteran bench pieces. Man, I could see them going on a run, but then now they've had injuries. They're not quite the same. They're up and down. They're not dependable. It doesn't look like it's going to happen for them. No. One last one. To me, is much as I can't believe I'm saying this right now, I look at the West and I look at all these teams. Is it possible that the Warriors Kings winner could is going to the finals? Do you give?
I'll tell you this.
Sacramento's up 1-0, so obviously they're riding high this morning. Their fans are dreaming the dream. They got a realistic chance of going to the finals, Grant, if they get by Golden State?
Gosh, Larry, I don't want the fans to kill me in Sacramento. No, I don't think
you don't believe it.
No, I don't. I could see the Warriors just because of their experience. Sacramento, I think, would have a very, very difficult time beating the Phoenix Suns. I don't like that matchup at all if that's the Kings and the Suns, which, by the way, would be in the Western Conference Finals. That's the only way they could meet. Could I see the Kings, if they win this series, beating Memphis or the Lakers? I could, I think without Steven Adams, if Steven Adams were on Memphis, I would say no. Memphis has handled Sacramento very, very well over the last few seasons. I could see the Kings winning their next round. I think both those teams, Larry. I mean, do you believe in the Lakers, Larry? A lot of people think they can go to the finals. I don't. I don't see it, Larry. They haven't been consistent enough at any point during this season where I'm thinking, oh, gee, that team can win 12 games and end up in the NBA Finals where they need to win 4 more. I don't see it.
No, first of all, I don't believe that you can put pieces together that late in the campaign, and then you that's going to develop enough momentum to get by every other team in the West. No, come on. I do though believe that Pelinka deserves the Executive of the Year over Monty McNair because
no, I don't.
Look at how done the Lakers were when they had Westbrook. They had no options.
Yeah, but they were a play-in team.
The cap.
They were a play-in team. Being one of the top 10 teams shouldn't get you Executive of the Year. What Monty McNair did, think about Malik Monk. Think about Trey Lyles. Think about the impact they had. Think about the trade of Sabonis that turned around the whole franchise. Okay? I mean, no, the Lakers were they had to be in the play-in tournament, Larry. I can't give a team in the play-in tournament Executive of the Year.
Well, but I mean that's kind of amazing that they were even in the play-in tournament. I just look at what LA added: Jared Vanderbilt, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley. I mean, they just added Rui Hachimura, Mo Bamba. I mean, that's just a lot of talent. I mean, they added a lot of talent. They totally changed their look. They totally changed their focus. They got the ball back in LeBron's hands. They took it out of Westbrook's hands. I mean, that was a pretty toxic, ugly, going nowhere situation. And now they've got the kind of length and athletes, LeBron, that they should have had originally.
You took a Sacramento team that was a non-playoff team last year and a non-playoff team since 2006. And you took a non-playoff team, talking about Monty McNair, you made bold moves, you solidified the bench, you now turn this team into the most efficient, high-scoring offense in the NBA, a 3 seed in the Western Conference. If he doesn't win Executive of the Year, I'd be very surprised, Larry.
Yeah, no, he's going to get it. I was talking to Ramona Shelburne the other day, and she's like, "Oh no, it's going to go to Monty McNair." All right, last one, Monday night. Yeah. Game 2. What do you expect? Is there a wrinkle? Is there a vibe? Is Sacramento going to come out and take a 2-0 lead? Is Golden State going to battle back? And if they do, what's it look like? What prediction on what we see Monday night?
I predicted that these teams would split their first 2 games. But I got to tell you, what the Kings did last night without 3 guys that we have mentioned often during this show, namely Sabonis, I think the Kings are not going to win tomorrow. I really do. I think they're going to win tomorrow because I just don't see Sabonis and Herter being held in check like that. I don't expect Monk to have that type of a game. But I'm now thinking Sacramento is going to win this game tomorrow and now put all the pressure on the Warriors going home for game 3 and 4. What about you?
Yeah, I do too. You know, it's funny. I was doing a show this week and one of the hosts said, you know what? I could see Sacramento winning games 1 and 2. And having the thing come back to Golden State. Wow. And yet, even in that scenario, I could see Golden State winning 4 straight from that point on.
Absolutely. I could too.
I think they could take the momentum back and then show in game 5, hey, you know what? Or game 7.
Well, Larry, we talk about this. All right, if you want to just forget about
Golden State can win game 7 on the road. They can.
Of course they can. Larry, the difference between these teams this year was 48 and 44 wins, a 3 seed and a 6 seed. How many games did Steve Kerr basically forfeit with his load management nonsense? Okay. How many games did Curry miss? How many games did Wiggins miss? The Kings were the healthiest team in the NBA. They didn't have any significant injuries. All right. If I'm going to look at these teams side by side, forget about me being in Sacramento, forget about you being in San Francisco or whatever. The Warriors are a better team. I'm sorry. The Warriors are, they have a better team. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to win the series, but if I'm taking a step back, of course I think the Warriors are still going to win this series. Until they've lost 4 games, I'm still going to stay with my prediction that I had with you on Friday, and that is I think the Warriors are going to win this series. I still do.
Yeah, I do too. I'll take Warriors in 6 or 7 at this point. A couple things that I think are interesting. The difference, first of all, the Kings won 48. Do you realize the Warriors missed the playoffs a few years ago with 48 wins?
That's right. Yep.
They missed the playoffs.
They missed it. That's correct.
The other thing is, you know what the difference was between the Warriors and the Kings this year? Warriors went 0-4 against Orlando and Detroit. Kings went 4-0 against Orlando and Detroit. So the Kings basically showed up, were healthy, played these, second division type teams in the East. Much harder, beat them home, beat them road, both teams. Warriors lost all 4 of those games.
Yeah,
that was the difference.
Yeah, I understand that. You brought that up the other day on the show, and I'm going to tell you why I don't put any stock into that. Who played, who didn't play? Was it, your 5th game in 7 nights? Did you play the night before? And the night before, did your game go in overtime? Was you extended? I don't really pay attention to stuff like that because there are so many reasons why you might lose to a bad team during the regular season. It happens to all teams, all right? Yet, I believe one of the games against Detroit, I don't think the Warriors played anybody, did they? So
right. I guess it's my way of just saying, you know what? These are very comparable basketball teams.
Yes, they are.
Very comparable basketball teams.
All right, let me ask you now real quickly.
Yeah.
You're a general manager right now today. I'm not talking about next year. I'm not talking about 2 years from now. I'm talking about right now. I'm making Larry Krueger a general manager in the NBA, and I'm going to say, Larry, I'm giving you the power. You can play the rest of this season in the playoffs. Which roster are you taking? Are you taking the Kings roster or are you taking the Warriors roster? Oh, by the way, Larry, your job depends on it. If you pick the wrong roster and they lose, you're out of a job and you're never getting a job for the rest of your life. Who are you taking?
Yeah, I'm roster-wise, I like the Warrior roster better.
Me too.
I really do. I think they're deeper. And I think it's also a little bit, the Kings you got to have some defensive players. And who's Sacramento? I mean, they got Davion Mitchell, but I mean, it's not a great defensive, it's a lot of offensive players. They're going to have a defensive player or two at some point. The Kings need their version of Randy Brown.
Oh boy!
In the worst way. I mean, if you could take Randy Brown in his prime and put him on this team, Sacramento would be a much better team.
Yes,
this last thing I think was interesting. Trend going back to 1969. There have been 6 times that a lower seeded team has been favored to win the series outside of the 4-5 matchup. Take those out because there's been lots of them in that. So outside of the 4-5 matchup since 1969, 6 times a lower seed has been favored to win the series. The lower seed went on to win the series only 1 time.
Wow.
In lost 5, 1 and 5.
Wow.
So that favors Sacramento right there.
Does. Wow, that's unbelievable.
Isn't that incredible?
That
1
is
and 5.
That's
and they were outscored by a wide margin.
Wow.
And I'll say this too. The other concern I had coming into the series, Grant, was what was the net impact of Andrew Wiggins? And, as far as it's not like baseball. You got a 300 hitter with power, you put him in your lineup in baseball, you're just better. But in basketball and hockey, there's a change in how the team plays, and the net difference may not be there. I thought the net difference of Wiggins last night wasn't necessarily positive because I thought it took more minutes away from Kuminga. I thought Kuminga was in a flow. He was not in a flow last night. I thought that impacted the game, but I don't want to take anything.
It's going to be fun tomorrow, Larry. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
This series is going to be fun the rest of the way, and I'm really happy for you to have me on your show, man. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh man, I love having you on. Hey, promote one more thing on your way out, and then we'll call it quits right here. But awesome stuff, Grant, and everybody needs to go check you out on your pregame show in town, and let people know against one. If people came in at the last second, let them know where you're going to be the next few days.
Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to be doing the show live at Seoul Street. Okay. That is Seoul, like Seoul, South Korea. It's right downtown, a couple of blocks away from the arena. I'll be there for the pregame. So the game starts at 7. My show begins at 6, then halftime and postgame. It's right next to the public house on the corner of L and 16th. So come on down, join me, watch party. If you don't have tickets to the game, it's a great place. We're bringing extra TVs in. So no matter where you are, you will have a good view of the game. And we also have outdoor sitting with heaters and a TV out there as well.
Ooh, sounds good. Check out Grant in town. Grant, maybe later this week we can hook up again. We'd love to do it.
My pleasure. Anytime, my friend.
All right, Grant Napear, we'll let him go, but what an awesome guest he is, and thanks to Grant for giving us his time and his perspective on Game 1 of Warriors Kings. All right, we got lots of people in the chat. I got a bunch of starred chats I want to get to. We'll get to it next, but first, let's get a word from our sponsor. We are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're inside the Emeryville Public Marketplace. They're in Emeryville and in Corte Madera. You'll check them out at the mall, and it looks a little bit like this.
So New York style sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never going to deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
Hey, do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it. Guaranteed.
All right, welcome back to the Krueg Show. When you get that wink from Pasquale, you know we're in the home stretch. So Game 1 goes to the Sacramento Kings. Man, it was great. It was great to watch. It really was. I really enjoyed it. I know all of you guys did as well. I hope we get 6 more of these. The Kings are for real. There's no question. This idea that the Warriors would flip a switch and everything, the regular season meant nothing. That obviously is not true. But the idea that these were, that somehow the Kings were dramatically better than Golden State, that wasn't real either. Anyway, good stuff. Let's hit the chat. We got a bunch of people. And guys, let's try to keep it civil to one another in the chat. Oh my God. We are one game into this series and people are losing their S. Oh my God. Sacto. The switch is broken. LOL. Oh my God. Darren Worthington. What are they on their 4th arena? On their 4th arena now? Oh, people are mad. Cody Semke. Great back and forth with Grant. Nice work, Larry. Oh, Grant's the best. Grant is the best. Fantastic. We got somebody asking, what's the beam? Where's that one? I got to find that one. There was a Bay Area radio host who literally, like 3 days ago, was asking his partner, Hey, what's the deal with this beam thing? Are you freaking kidding me? It's April. You didn't. They were. This was. That was an okay conversation in November. If you're just noticing now, here Darren's like, here he goes. What the hell is this light the beam stuff? I mean, literally, that's okay for you, Darren, because you're in the chat and you maybe are not a big Kings fan. But if you're a broadcaster in Northern California who covers sports, and you're asking your partner in April what's this beam thing, then what are you doing? I mean, where you been? What are you covering? Where's your head at? You know, where are you doing the show from abroad? I mean, my God, the light the beam thing has been a thing since November. I mean, just amazing. I heard that this week. I was like, what? Sacktown Izzy. Say it with me. Light the beam. Oh, man. F the beam. Goddamn beam. As a Warrior fan. I mean, and when I say that, I mean it with the kindest of hearts. Damn beam. Now, the Kings look good. They really did look good. I don't understand why Golden State doesn't just throw Draymond top of the key, let Steph and Clay throw it to Draymond, let Draymond throw it to Wiggins or Poole or Kuminga cutting and break the Kings defense down a little bit. They want to extend it. If they want to extend that far out on Steph and Clay to bother Steph and Clay and to guard them deep at the 3-point line, let them do it. Duck in right behind them with Draymond. Attack the rim relentlessly. Force them to play you straight. Force them to play you honest. Force them to pack it in. Show that you can attack the rim and go to the line. I think that's the counter. You say, what's the counter for game 2? I think that's the counter. What did we really see in game 1? We saw Sacramento on the defensive end do a nice job at extending on the perimeter against Steph and Clay. And Mike Brown knows that Steph doesn't like to be crowded and Clay doesn't like to be crowded, and they can shoot deep threes, and they'll take them if you give it to them. So he said, you know what? We're not giving it to them. We're going to defend them out there. We're going to attack them out there. And I didn't see Golden State make the adjustment. The adjustment is get Draymond in the middle of the floor, throw him a relatively easy pass. He pivots. He's got a cutter on his right. He's got a cutter on his left. He's got an ability to do a little one-dribble floater. He's got an ability to throw the lob. I think that is the counter. I think that's the counter to Sacramento, playing their guards deep on the perimeter. There's a ton of room in the middle. That means that pass to Green is easy. It's wide open. And then once he has the ball in his hands, that play's done. Because he's either going to take one dribble and float it, he's going to throw a lob, he's going to, fake to the left and go to the right, he's going to drive in and lay it in himself, or he's going to pass it to a cutter, and that cutter is going to have to finish or get fouled. To me, that's it. That's it right there. That's the counter on that end of the floor. And then on the other side of the floor, you cannot allow Malik Monk to go off. If he goes off, it's over. He went off. That's really it. Malik Monk goes for 30. Sacramento's moving on. You can't have a guy go for 32 off the bench. Just takes all the pressure off Sabonis, off of Fox, off of Murray, off of Barnes, off of everybody. Malik Monk gives this team a lot. And the Warriors on the surface should have the solution in GP2. To me, that's got to be, a focus of game 2 is put a defender on Malik Monk. The Kings do not have a lot of bench scoring beyond Malik Monk. They scored 55 off their bench in game one. Their bench can't give them 55. All right? If their bench gives them 55, they're going to win. They're going to win. They're going to win the series. Z11 says, great stuff, Grant. Thanks for bringing him on, Larry. Absolutely. You kidding me? I was an intern for that guy in 1990. 1990. A few years ago now. 30 years ago. I was an intern for the great Grant Napear. And we had a lot of good time. He was a younger guy. I was a younger guy. I played lacrosse at Sac State. He'd come on campus. We'd throw the lacrosse ball around in the afternoon, hang out a little bit, then go to the Channel 31 right there by where was that? Kind of like 160, I guess. No, was it 160? 116, right there by the Radisson. That's where Channel 31 used to be. And I would cut his highlights, go with him to the arena. You know, had a really good year working for him, and we've been friends ever since. And I've had him on my show when I was on KMBR. He's had me on his show in Sacramento, and now we're both doing YouTube stuff and going on each other's shows. Nothing but respect for Grant Napear. And what happened to him, just wrong. Wrong on every level. Guy was an incredible announcer. And did the radio station have his back? No. Did the Kings have his back? No. Consider the source of the people that were attacking him. Are those people incredibly credible? No. But he was out, and now he's starting new, and maybe it will be a great new chapter for him, and I hope it is. He's a tremendous talent. And he's somebody in here said, ask him about the New York Giants quarterbacks. Sorry about that. We didn't get a chance for that. But, what can we say? He's a great sports fan. He's a New York guy. He got caught up in a situation that had a lot to do with a lot of things that had nothing to do with him. And I know, when you know somebody, you know where their heart is. When you've seen them around people of all colors and interacting, you know what they're actually about. I know what he's actually about. It really bothered me and all the people that took swipes at him. And then I'd ask those people, hey, did you ever meet him? No, never met him. But you're going on your radio show swearing up and down that he's like the worst thing ever, but you've never met him. Think about that for a second. Think about that. You're attacking somebody's character and causing them to, lose their job, and you've never met them. I mean, what? What? Come on. Seriously. At least know the people that you stab in the back. At least have something that, something credible to say one way or another. We got a couple people asking about Rye. G. Martinez, Rye is just in load management. GOAT. He said Ryan will be back soon. No cap. Said, Larry, why didn't you come on? Why didn't come do the show with you last night? Was he that pissed? You talking about Rye? Rye said he was going to be on, and then he sent me a text and said he had a long day, was tired. So he is going to be on, but he just had a bunch of things going on yesterday and was tired. But he will be on. He will be on during the series. Phil A.M., Dubs fan, is there a falling out with you and Rye? Larry, why not on the show anymore? Has nothing to do with me. He's invited to all the shows. It's totally on his end that he is doing other things. And I'll let him speak in his own words, but I think he's a young guy who's going through some things, and he's got some family, things going on as well. And I just think that he needed time away to spend time doing that. So he'll come on, and he'll come on and he'll speak in his own words, and he'll tell you, he'll tell you the honest truth. It doesn't have anything to do with me or this show or, our friendship or anything like that. Ryan and I are friends. We're cool. It's just he's got a bunch of things going on. in his life, and as I said, I'll let him. He will come on the show here probably in the next few days, and in his own words, he will tell you where he's been, what he's been doing, why he hasn't been on, what he's up to, that kind of thing. But no bad blood between me and Rye, or me and Danny. Now between Cy and Dan, you didn't see Cy on last night. I don't think Cy and Dan can coexist. We're talking about who can exist around each other and who can't. I don't think Cy wants to be on with Danny. I think Dan and Cy kind of are like oil and water. And, Cy's all up in the Warrior story, right? He's locked on, and I don't think he wants to stomach Dan, who he views as kind of a, casual Warrior fan, giving his opinions. And Danny's just, if any stream he's on, he's going to give his opinions, whether it's about football, basketball, baseball. I tried to kind of get in between them and police the thing. I got to be honest. I thought the last time, Rye looked bad because he came on the show and like within 2 sentences, he was already going at Dan. But there's history there. So people who saw the stream were like, Cy's a jerk and he's attacking Dan. Cy's not a jerk. He just doesn't like uninformed opinions, and he views Danny's opinion on basketball as uninformed. And Danny's pushing back, saying, hey, look, man, I just had an opinion, and I'm just – so, it just – come on. It just happens. It happens. I don't know if – I would love to have them all on together. I love it when it's Baller and Red and Cy and Dan and Rob. I like the whole group. But, I get along with everybody. I think Baller gets along with everybody. Red gets along with everybody. But – Cy and Dan are like oil and water. So I don't know that we might have to, there'll have to be Cy nights and Dan nights. But Cy and Dan nights, I don't think so. At least I'm fine with it. And I don't mind if they want to scream at each other. But it did get a little awkward. It did get it's a little much. I mean, you know me. I mean, anybody who's watched me on YouTube and knows me and knows my personality, I'm not afraid of confrontation. I'm not afraid of mixing it up. But let's keep it to we just disagree on sports. When we start to get into, I've got this political view, you've got that political view, we're all dug in, and I don't know. It's just like, it gets a little much. It gets a little, it was uncomfortable. Let's just say that. And so and I didn't end it, but Cy was like, hey man, if Danny's there, I don't want to be there. And yet he loves coming on and wants to come on, and Danny loves coming on and wants to come on. So now it's on me to kind of make it all work. And, it is what it is. It is what it is. I love both those guys, but now it's like they're going to make me choose, and I might have to just mix it up a little bit. But they're both definitely going to be on. Danny, I love talking baseball with Danny the most, and so he'll be on tons during baseball season. By the way, Giants-Tigers, rain delay. Oh, nice. Thought I was going to miss that, so now we'll get a chance to watch that this afternoon. Can the Giants bullpen stand up in Detroit? We'll find out. Roberto says, thank you for saying that, Larry. Grant got a raw deal in Sacramento. Grant is an awesome announcer and an awesome radio host. He got killed off by the woke crowd. I will say this, too. It's a very difficult thing to be in a town as small as Sacramento and be their play-by-play announcer and then have an afternoon drive radio show where you're talking with the public and critiquing the team. And that's really, if you really push back on Barnes and Cousins and Weber, what they're really pissed about is all the years that Grant critiqued them on his radio show, and they didn't like it. And then he also was the announcer. And that's just a difficult, you got to be really good. And something loses. And the thing about Grant is Grant's a damn good talk show host with very candid and real opinions. And so when you do these jobs where you're the talk show host and the announcer for the team, you have relationships with the players. And then you have to decide. And it's my contention, and it's just my contention, that you cannot do both to the best of your ability. You can't. You cannot do both to the best of your ability. Fitz tried it. Papa tries it. Grant did it. You can't do both to the best of your ability, because you can't be as loyal to the team as you need to be as the voice of the team and mix it up with Joe from Foster City. And when he makes a damn good point that's critical of the team, you can't just, shoot him down because you're defending the team if he's right. So it's a very difficult balancing act. Have you noticed that? I mean, who does that well? Michael Kay, maybe, in New York? And that's only because it's New York and people understand back there that, you know what? I'm the announcer, but you will not be covered. I can't cover you. There's a number of people around the country that do both, but it's very difficult. I always thought it was borderline impossible, because if some guy rips the team and he's right, what are you going to do? You going to disagree with him? No. You got to agree with him. But then you're standing on the tarmac, and there's the guy he just ripped. And now you need an interview with him. And he heard it. And he's like, wait, I don't like you anymore. And a lot of times the players don't even hear it. It's like, my girlfriend said you ripped me. It's like, okay. Did you hear the context? No. So it's just, it's a difficult tap dance. And Grant did it the best, I think. Why? When I say that, why? Because he was a damn good announcer and he was a damn good talk show host. Usually you're a damn good announcer and a crappy talk show host. That's usually the talk show is the one that loses. When an announcer is doing a talk show, the talk show suffers because he's going to be loyal to the team. But Grant did both incredibly well, and he was very honest, and that is going to rub some of those guys on the team that he's talking about the wrong way. And I really think that that's what that was about more than anything. So what can you say? What can you say? It's a tough. These are tough. These are great jobs, but they're tough jobs. And people say, "Oh, anybody could do that. You're just talking about the game." No, not when you're the announcer. You're going to be on the tarmac at 2:00 in the morning, standing next to a guy that you might have to chit chat with. That somebody's going to call up 5 hours later, or 10 hours later, and rip them, and you might agree with that guy. And then you're on the tarmac the next night, and you're sitting next to the guy in the arena. I mean, it's a very, very difficult balancing act. And most guys sell out their talk show. Most guys are like, screw the audience. I'll just suck up to the players, and I'll kiss ass to the organization, and then I'm smarter than the talk show. I'm smarter than the people listening to my show. So I'll just like a bulldozer, I'll analyze everything that favors the team, and I'll do it in a way that always favors the team. And nobody will notice, nobody will call me out because I'm that good, I'm that smart, no. People are smart, and they know when they're being when you're telling the truth and when you're just covering the team because you're getting paid by the team. So I think MF says respect to Tim Ryan for going on Murph and Mac early in the morning after a late night away gamer on the East Coast. Tim is really, really good, right? He's not a stooge. He talks openly about the team. He's somewhat critical, but he's not the host. He's a guest, and that makes it easier. If you're a guest on a talk show that's one thing. But when you have to lead the whole thing, then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a second. Did you hear the Tim Ryan show? He was ripping you, Fred Warner. It's like, what? And then Fred's like, hey, I just saw him at practice. Hey, Tim, what's up? I mean, Do you see the conflict of interest there? Do you see how that gets kind of the way it goes? So it's just a tough thing. It's a very difficult thing to do. I've always had great respect for Greg and for Bob and for Grant and for those who have done that, because how do you do that? How do you talk to the callers and be, square with them, and then talk to the players and be square with them and not be a stooge? That's the one thing. I don't want to be a stooge. I don't want to be, they're great when they're not. Roberto says the Kings should bring Grant back. The current announcers are trash. There you go. Here's one, interesting one. Ranger 49. The Sharks brought back Drew Remenda. The Kings should do the right thing. Yeah, the Sharks got butthurt because Drew Remenda is damn good. And he's kind of like Grant. Life's too short to lie. So I'm just going to be honest. And it's just hard to do. It's hard to do. Something suffers. Either your play-by-play suffers or your talk show suffers. And most of these guys care more about their play-by-play than their talk show. So the talk show suffers. So that's just generally what happens. And then people are like, yeah, well, we'll give him a pass because he works for the team. But what you really mean is he's not as good. I give him a pass, but it doesn't mean I'm going to listen to him. That's kind of the way it is. Haruku Itoki. Kruko is loving the Giants' makeup. It's too early to know what you have. Kruko's on there in the morning. That's a tough gig, too. That's even a tougher gig in some ways. He's got to answer like first thing in the morning for what happened the night before and still sit in row 9 on the flight as the guys are walking by. And you think that it's easy. It ain't easy. It's really, really hard. Heck, we saw, was it last year or 2 years ago, where David Price of the Red Sox, when Dennis Eckersley was getting on the flight, Eck is on the broadcast, and he's like, here comes the guy who thinks baseball's easy, and it's, here's the guy who's never made a mistake and doesn't know how hard it is, and blah, blah, blah. And all these players were like, hey, hey, like clapping like trained seals, ripping Eck, the man who gave up the home run to Gibson and stood at his locker for fucking 2 hours and answered every goddamn question forever. The guy who's so accountable that he discussed his teammate, Rick Manning, running off with his wife on Nesson during a Red Sox broadcast. That's what kind of open book he is. And there's David Price ripping Eck. He doesn't know what it means. No, bro, check yourself. Check yourself. You were wrong. You were totally wrong on that situation. Roberto Davis. Gary would be a better radio host than the entire crew on the Kings morning show. G-Rad. Gary'd be a better talk show host than most in most markets. Wow. Now Roberto's ripping Carmichael Dave. Carmichael Dave's garbage, he says. Wow, Carmichael Dave's not garbage. He's a fan. You may not agree with his opinions, but come on. He's solid. I think he's solid. All right, let me get a couple of these starred chats from earlier in the chat. Nick Caracciolo. You're nonstop, dog. Yeah, we were on late last night, and we're on again today. But that's just because I wanted to get Grant's opinions on this game, and I figured I was thinking he's East Coast, but actually he's out here in Sacramento. So I said, hey, how about 9:30? He's like, great. But either way, I need to get up and get rolling. Nick says, LOL, I'm pretty sure Larry's prediction was a gentleman's sweep, LOL. Yeah, I thought it was going to be Warriors in 5, and we'll see. We'll see. I kind of think this thing could go deep, maybe 7 now. But I also think Sacramento could lose to Golden State on their home floor in Game 7. Jesus, are the Kings being underestimated? Maybe by the betting public. That's a good call. Maybe by the betting public. Darren Ty says, I love Larry, but if the Kings win this series, he's going to have to eat some crow. Darren, you're right. You're right. I'll be eating crow. That's the thing. I'm not going to not make predictions on the show, but I don't see the future, though I did with Brock Purdy. I don't normally see the future. So I'm going to be right, and I'm going to be wrong. Often wrong, seldom in doubt. Poker Pro Eric, Mike Wilbon also said pregame on ABC that there is no Sacramento Kings without KJ. Maybe that's true. Yeah, I think what he's saying is they would have moved if this new arena didn't get built, and that KJ probably had a hand in getting it built. I don't know my facts on that at all, so I'd have to defer to my brother, the judge, who lives in Sac and probably knows the timeline of everything. That comment could be totally spot on, or it could be just a joke. And I don't know either way. Sacktown Izzy. Krueg's been disrespecting the beam, and now it's lit all over his ass. I'm not disrespecting the beam. I'm just saying fuck the beam. I'm mad at the beam, but I'm not disrespecting it. Poker Pro Eric. Gold-blooded, it's clear the King's security was right, though. E40 hit the security guard on the arm first. What happened there? E40 got run last night? I heard that a couple spots, but I never got any details on it. If he was a Kings fan, would he have gotten run? Goat says Larry's sweating about draft day 2 when Trey doesn't get traded. I don't know. There's a lot of indications that say the other way, that he is going to get traded. We'll see. Once again, predicting it, not rooting for it, predicting it. There's a difference. Poker Pro Eric, Trey is QB3. Now, he doesn't believe in Trey. Bomber T, Purdy is making a fast recovery. The brace is already off. We shall see. What is the Niners' plan at quarterback? We are going to get the answer to that in a very short amount of time. Either Lance is there, Purdy's there, and Darnold's there, and they're going to maybe take a quarterback undrafted, and all this talk. I mean, all I'll say is if that's the case, then if the Niners didn't want to move Trey Lance, why wouldn't they just talk him up? They can talk up Sam Darnold. They can talk up Brock Purdy. If you're not moving off of Trey, why can't you just talk him up? It's amazing. They won't say anything positive about Trey as a player, just about him as a person. Tell me something he's good at as a player. Talk him up. Build him up. Darren Ty says Larry just can't give Sac any credit. Well, that's not true. I went to Sac State. I lived in Sacramento. I love Sacramento. My God. Darren, you're so wrong. It's not even funny. MF says, I love how Grant gives his opinions. Yeah, Grant's real. And he fires real opinions with a lot of energy, and he backs it up. MF says, the Krueg show is the best for draft-related stuff. Yeah, we will be going live for round 1, round 2, round 3. We may even go live for day 3. But yeah, we'll be on draft night. Be here. There'll probably be a couple thousand people in the chat. And I think I'm going to book some guests. I think I'm going to either get some coaches, some agents, some players, some media people, some content creators. We're going to do almost like an open house deal during the draft. I'll figure that out here in the next couple days. Maybe I'll throw it out to you guys. If I was doing a draft-related live stream, and you're familiar with the people I've had on thus far, not necessarily shopping from that list, but if I was doing a draft-related live stream, who would you like on that live stream with me? Who do you want? You want Vish? You want Grant Cohn? You want Matt Barrows? Dave Lombardi? Jesse? Hensley? Jordan Elliott? Brad Graham? We got a lot of... You think about that. I just named a bunch of people. Mayoko? Darren says Grant Cohn. He wants Grant Cohn on there. MF says Matt Barrows, Lombardi, or Vish. How about him? Let's get them all. How about just get them all? Nick says he's not a big draft guy. No sweat. I hear you. Not everybody is. It's kind of a specialty topic. NorCal Refrigeration says Trey Lance was just Kyle deflecting from losing the Super Bowl. Vicky says Jesse Naylor and Matt Barrows. Lee Ving, which is a great name, says Vish. MF says, is Rob Rang coming on? Get this. Rob Rang and I have been scouting buddies forever, but Rob now is actually back in the game scouting in the Canadian League. And part of his deal is that he can only do the media that he did prior to joining them. He can't do new media. So Rob and I shot back a bunch of texts, but he can't come on right now because he's working, I think, for the BC Lions. So there you go. But I've got other scouting buddies that I'll get on besides Rob. Z11 says, get them all. Yes, Barrows, Lombardi, Vish. Darren says Naylor would be great as well. Darren Ty, not Grant. Bro. Bro. We got this one, Darren Worthington. Darren is a hater. You see, Darren with an I said that Darren with an E is a hater. Is Adam Peters leaving? Do you have any sources, Larry? Sounds like he's leaving. Sounds like here's the one thing on these personnel guys. You don't want him to leave today. He just spent the last year. It's like having somebody work for you as a consultant for an event, and then 2 days before the event, they leave. You want them to stay through the event because you want them. I mean, he worked towards draft day. So I think if Peters is leaving at this juncture, he's not leaving until after the draft. But yeah, if what I'm reading, my read on this is that Bob Kraft knows that Bill Belichick is a great coach, Hall of Famer, maybe the greatest coach, but not a good personnel guy. And so, and maybe is not making the best decisions for his franchise, hiring Matt Patricia and Joe Judge as his offensive coaches. They backslid offensively. The young quarterback, Mac Jones, regressed. Jones then went outside the chain of command looking for offensive tutelage. That pissed off Belichick. Belichick then shopped Jones. Now the Patriots players are saying that they're siding with Mac Jones. And now there's talk that Cesario, the former Patriot executive, who's now in Houston, did not maybe have a say in who the head coach was because he didn't know DeMeco Ryans at all, according to the people that I know down in Texas. And so that maybe that wasn't his call to hire DeMeco, and that maybe they're going forward with DeMeco as the central figure, the way Kyle was the central figure with the Niners, and are allowing DeMeco to have maybe hand-pick his general manager. The Texans have become 49ers South. So there's a lot of speculation that maybe Cesario, however you pronounce it, he might be a short timer, and he may be going to New England to take the personnel duties away from Belichick, to transition away from Belichick, for Kraft to transition away from Belichick over the next few years and make Cesario kind of the focus. And who knows, maybe at some point they'll get McDaniels to come back from Vegas. But that's what I think's going on there, and that's going to create an opening in Houston for a general manager. And I think Adam Peters would be a hand-picked guy for sure. If I'm DeMeco, I want Adam Peters. No, I thought Peters, who's from Cupertino, I thought he was coming here to be the eventual replacement for John Lynch, but maybe John Lynch wants to stick around. Maybe John Lynch, says, hey, you know what? I'm now in this role and I love it so much, I'm not leaving. So maybe Peters said, hey, I want to be the top guy, and maybe Peters will join Houston, more like this summer, and then start working on next year's draft for the Texans. That would not surprise me. And that lends credibility to the idea that maybe if Peters and D'Amico were fans of Trey, that maybe they would, pass up a quarterback at the top of the draft, go defense, and then maybe flip the Niners a couple day 2 picks or whatever for Trey Lance and go that direction. And I get all the people saying it doesn't make sense for the Niners to move off Trey Lance. Look at his potential. Look at his youth. Look at his this. Look at his that. I agree. It doesn't. Well, I mean, look how many quarterbacks they used this last year. Who's going to quarterback? They only have Darnold. They don't know about Purdy. These are all very compelling and accurate and good points by the people who are saying that Trey's not going to be dealt. I get it. But then you got to ask yourself, is Trey a starter? And I would say yes. And then I think I would ask the next question, is Brock Purdy a starter? And I would say yes. And that means that they're probably not going to both be here long term. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean this year? Might not. Matt Barrows doesn't believe it's going to be this year. Despite all the rumors that are out there, despite all the smoke that seems to be out there, he doesn't think that's coming down this year. He's talking about maybe next year. So there's a lot of people that are in that camp. But if you believe that the Niners brass is going to commit to Purdy, and they feel like, the one thing that Lynch has said that just every time I think about this, and why did I have this opinion that they're going to trade him? Because John Lynch has come out and said Trey needs to play. And when I talk to the people that I know who know Trey and the people that know the NFL and know, are working in the NFL, that's the very first sentence that they all say. Trey Lance has got to play. He's only played 1 year since high school. He's got to play. Seriously, he may ruin his career if he sits. He cannot sit any longer. He needs to play. Whether it be in San Francisco, Houston, Tennessee, or on the moon, Trey Lance has to play. He has to play, and he has to play now. And I think John Lynch understands that. And I think while they understand that, I think they've also committed to Brock. And now here comes Sam Darnold. And now they're having multiple meetings with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Yeah. Take your victory laps on me all you want. I believe the Niners are going to move Trey. And I believe they love him. I just believe they know that he needs to play. They're not going to keep his career hostage. They've made the professional evaluation that they prefer to go with Purdy. Both guys are starters. There's starting gigs all over the place in the league. I think Trey's going to get one of them. I think Trey is going to be a starter. I think Brock's going to be a starter. And a starting quarterback on a rookie deal, all these people are like, Trey's not worth anything. He's a starting quarterback on a rookie deal. He absolutely is worth something. And he might be worth a lot. So, anyway, that's how I feel about it. Luke Luna, Larry, you're one of the best too. Can talk with anyone. Thank you. Appreciate that. 187. Purdy will be ready week 1. Darren Worthington, agree 100%. So, Nick says, I don't see Trey Lance starting for more than a handful of weeks for someone. Bomber T says the Sam Darnold signing tells all. So, Darren says the offense woke up under Purdy. I do understand the pushback on Trey, though, because it's like, I'm in the same camp. What? You traded 3 number ones to get Trey Lance, and then suddenly you're going to move off of him and potentially have him succeed somewhere else, and he only gave him 4 starts? Wow. That's amazing. I get it. Believe me, I get the people who are like, Krueg, you're freaking high as a kite. They're not doing it. I get it because it makes what you're saying makes a lot of sense. But I believe what I believe. We'll see. I know there's going to be a trade coming. The only thing could be wrong is the timing. I think it's going to happen on draft day this year because I think the 49ers want to maximize next year. But there's other people that think it's not going to happen until after the draft, or it's not going to happen until the trade deadline, or it's not going to happen until next offseason. Okay. But Trey Lance is a starting quarterback as sure as I'm sitting here. and so's Brock Purdy. And there's only going to be one starter. And they're not going to sit there and pay their backup big money and have, this potential split locker room. They're probably going to get down the road. And if you said to me, based on, April 16th, what do you think is going to happen today? If I had to guess, I would say Brock gets healthy. Darnold is the 2. They go into the draft. They get a couple of picks for Trey. They take a player they really like with the first pick, and with that second pick, or somewhere in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, they take a quarterback. Which one? Seems like DTR. Seems like the guy they're sniffing around. So maybe it's DTR. But it could be Max Duggan. Could be Clayton Tune. Could be Tanner McKee. Could be Jake Hayner. Might even be a couple other guys in there that I haven't even mentioned, but I think it's probably one of those guys. So, and then Sacktown Izzy says, or maybe Lance starts and takes the job. It's possible, but I get the feeling that they've already evaluated that they want Brock to be the quarterback. So my guess is they're not going to allow that competition to take place, because then you lose control of the situation. Because then it takes on a life of its own. You're right. If he plays really well, he stays in. Part of the reason why I think they're going to make a move now. Not because, any other reason other than they've made an evaluation they want to go forward with Brock. So, yeah, if he plays well, it will help his trade value. If he plays well, he could take the job. Heck, we don't even know what Brock's going to be coming off the injury. But but I think Sacktown Izzy's right. If Lance starts and plays well, he takes the gig. Now the question is, and I brought this up to a couple times this last week, what do you actually believe the 49ers want? Do they want a quarterback competition between Brock and Trey eventually, between Trey and Darnold this summer? Or do they want to commit to Brock Purdy, have a very clear-cut quarterback room where Brock's the clear one, Darnold's the clear 2, and let's say DTR or Max Duggan or Clayton Tune or whatever is the clear 3? Is that what they prefer, or do they want the competition? And then there's the other angle on this thing is like, they could love Trey Lance, but they could love the players that they could potentially get with the pick that they could get for Trey Lance more. I mean, I realize they're all draft picks, and for a lot of football fans, there's a lot of people out there that don't watch college football. And so, you don't know who these players are, and yet the players could be future NFL Hall of Famers. Kalijah Kancey could be a superstar. If the 49ers could get a late 1st or an early 2nd round pick and they're staring at Kalijah Kancey, now I can't imagine that Kancey's there, but if they were, how do you pass that up? That guy's awesome. The guy's a tremendous football player. Emmanuel Forbes, the ridiculous corner from Mississippi State. The guy's got 6 pick sixes, 14 interceptions. That's the kind of Deion Sanders type corner that you might want, might change your team. How about this one? Isaiah Foskey is projected to go late 1st, early 2nd. He showed up at the local pro day in Santa Clara and met and spoke with the Niners. Why? What are you doing there? You telling me Isaiah Foskey loves driving from Antioch to Santa Clara? You think he's just had to meet Lynch and Shanahan? No. I'm sure they told Foskey's agent, we have a chance to potentially move up, maybe into a spot where we can get Isaiah Foskey. Please have him come to our pro day so we can talk with him, so we can meet with him, so we can find out more about him. And he did. He showed up. That right there is an indication that he's not showing up there. He's not falling to 99. There's no chance of that. Not a chance in the world that Foskey's there at 99. So why is he driving 100 miles to go meet the Niners on local pro day? He just loves the Niners? No. They may trade up. What are they going to trade up? They probably can't trade all their threes and even get up high enough for Foskey. Another indication that they could be moving Trey Lance for a high second-round pick. The Texans pick 33. If you're the Texans and you want to go with the Alabama rusher at the top of the draft and bypass the quarterbacks, trading a high second-round pick in a deal for Trey Lance might make a lot of sense. And if you're sitting at 33, guess what? Isaiah Foskey might be staring you right in your lap. I mean, he might fall into your lap. He might be staring you in the face. Isaiah Foskey opposite Nick Bosa might be a star in the NFL. That might be the key guy to round out the Niner front four. And if it's not Foskey, it might be the Northwestern kid, Adi Tamiwa Adebawore. So all I'm saying is, the Niners are doing a number of interesting things. They said they may go 2 quarterbacks. They already have 3. But yet they're having multiple meetings with DTR. They're going to all these different pro days. They're bringing in Isaiah Foskey, who's a high second-round pick or a low first-round pick, at their local pro day. Several indications that shows that they may be in and around a move. And it wouldn't surprise me at all. Got this one from Ranger 49. If Kyle built the offense around Purdy already, is changing it to fit Lance for 1 to 4 games, something Kyle just doesn't want to do. I mean, I didn't even get into that because I kind of would like to see Trey run the same offense that Jimmy ran and the same offense that Brock ran. And I don't like the fact that they have 2 different offenses, but there might be something to that as well. MF said, I heard from Matt Miller that the Niners are heavily looking at tight ends. Yeah, Matt Miller, who's a Niner fan, and I've known for years. He's very credible. He works for ESPN. He's one of the better draft gurus out there. Says the Niners are looking heavily at tight ends. It makes sense. George Kittle's 30. George Kittle likes to run through and not around. That means more injuries are coming. They're getting ready to have to pay him big money. They don't really have a second tight end. Dwelly is a third. Warner's a third tight end. They don't really have a number 2. This is a blue chip banger tight end class. I mean, you got to get, to me, there's a bunch of guys here. When I originally discussed the whole Trey Lance trade up concept, it was with the idea of drafting Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. Why? Because Michael Mayer has got to be one of the safest picks in this entire draft. He's a stud. They call him Baby Gronk. I mean, I think he's a Pro Bowl caliber tight end. If I could add a Pro Bowl caliber tight end for Trey Lance, I mean, I think I got to do that. Jets Gang says Lance is not worth a second. Stop, Larry. I disagree. I think he absolutely is. I think he absolutely is worth a second. You know, it's so funny that you said that, Jets Gang. Who's the sharpest 49er content creator there is? Who is it? I'd probably say Matt Barrows. When I had Barrows on the other day, I asked him his perspective. What about Trey for a high second-round pick? He said, I don't think that's enough. Barrows doesn't believe the high second is enough for the 49ers to trade Trey Lance. And yet, Jets Gang says Lance isn't worth a second-round pick at all. Who's right? Matt Barrows or Jets Gang? And this is the thing that makes me laugh the most about the whole Trey thing. There are people that push back when I said he was going to be traded, and then there was people who pushed back who said what he was going to be traded for was like some kind of pipe dream. So what is it? Is he super valuable and he can't be traded, or does he have no value? Darren says I didn't answer a question. I'm not sure. Which one he's talking about. Says Larry didn't answer. Darren Ty says Larry didn't answer it, but I think I know what he would have said. Great. Now you know me. Now you know me better than I know me. Jan Chosla, Ayuk plus trade of the Titans for the 11th pick overall and their second-round pick. Draft Paris Johnson Jr. Yeah, that's the other question. The Niners have told everybody that they're going with Colton McKivitz at right tackle. Is that what you say to maintain leverage? Or are they going with Colton McKivitz at right tackle? Because Paris Johnson is awesome. Paris Johnson is a tremendous tackle. And maybe they want to get up high enough for the top offensive tackle. I don't know that's the question. What's their big need? Is it tight end? Is it defensive end, corner, offensive tackle? MF talking Giants. He says if Logan Webb doesn't go 7 strong today, the Giants will lose. The bullpen is a mess. Yeah. Well, how about this? If your starter's going good, how about don't go to 5 relievers? The Giants used 5 relievers in a shutout last week. Stop using 5 relievers every day. How is that any different than you're sitting there betting the NFL and you're like, hey, I'm going to do a 2-team teaser or a 2-team parlay. Okay, that pays off generally pretty decently. Well, I'm going to go with a 5-team parlay. Well, the odds of hitting that 5-team parlay are not very good. That's why you don't do it. The payoff's better, but you don't do a 5-team parlay. Why? Because you kind of know, you know what, one of these games is bound. I'm bound to miss on one of these games. It's the same thing when you go with 5 and 6 relievers every day. One of these relievers is bound not to have it. Yesterday it was Brebbia. One day it's going to be Tyler Rogers. Next day it's going to be Taylor Rogers. I mean, it's so predictable. Stop leaning on 5-man bullpen efforts day after day after day. Stop pulling starters out in fear of what's coming instead of reacting to what you're seeing. That's the one thing with Gabe that's so maddening. You get this feeling that they had this meeting at 2:00 in the afternoon before the game, and he's going with their thoughts in the meeting. Yeah, but Gabe, the game starts at fucking 7:00. Let's just watch the game and see how it plays out. You know, it's like Kevin Cash. I got to get Blake Snell out of the game. Why? He's dominant. It's the World Series. Ride the hot hand. Do you think analytics would have told Bruce Bochy to ride with Madison Bumgarner all the way through in Game 7 of 2014? No, it wouldn't have. The analytics would have said, no. Get him out of there. Go to Casilla. Go to the fresh arm in the 8th. But somehow Boch stayed with Madison Bumgarner. And somehow there was a parade after that. But I guarantee you the analytics didn't say do that. So is the analytics always right? You know, it's like everybody wants empirical data that will prove the right move. Sometimes you just got to go with your gut. Sometimes you got to watch the game and go with what you're seeing. I mean, I compare it to jogging or running. You know, I used to run 2-3 miles a day. Some days it seemed like 5. Other days it seemed like I was running like 50 yards. Same person, different day. Some days there was wind at your back and it was easy. Some days there was wind in your face and it was hellaciously difficult. Some days my body got to a certain spot where I just warmed up and I felt like I could run. I could do it twice. I could go around. Instead of running 3.5 miles, I could run 7 miles. Easy. There were times I did do it twice. Other days I'd be like, oh my God, I'm dragging to the finish line. It's the same distance, same person running the same distance. So some days you got it. Some days you don't. Some days you're in a flow. Some days you're not. Sometimes you get into a great rhythm. You get warm, whatever. Sometimes you don't. Analytics doesn't account for any of that. Any of it. So I'm not an anti-analytics person. I'm pro-analytics. But use your analytics and then hire somebody with great instincts. Let them look at all the numbers and then use their instincts and the numbers. Factor the numbers in, but don't live and die by the numbers solely. Luke Luna, side clowning Dan for making a dumb point to hear himself talk, then makes the same exact point. Mad he wanted to make the point. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, those guys just, it's oil and water. They don't get along. Darren Ty says David Lombardi he'd like to have in there. MF says Barrows knows his stuff. Jets, Sacktown Izzy says, hey, Jets gang, what's Zach Wilson worth? Yeah, I mean, probably not very much right now. I bet Zach Wilson's worth like a 4th or 5th round pick at this point. And then is he going to stick around? What's his situation? Clarsard says, it's yourself, Krug. You're the best. There is stop disrespecting yourself. Okay, there you go. Nick says Trey is not that good. Jets Gang says a 6th round pick, Zach and Lance. No, come on. You're nuts. Why is Trey Lance worth nothing? because he got hurt? Because he didn't play? I thought Trey Lance looked pretty good when he did play. One guy is persona non grata in the room, has turned off the fan base, and every guy on the team wore a T-shirt of his backup. That's Zach Wilson. Trey Lance is beloved in the Niner room. How do I know that? I'm in the room. I see the players. I talk to them. They really like him. He's very popular. There's a lot of love for Trey. And it ain't because they took him high in the draft. It's because of his work ethic. It's because of his character. It's because of his makeup. It's because of who he is. That's why they love Trey. So, this young player who everybody loves, who's got a world of potential, suddenly is worth the same amount as Zach Wilson, who turned off his entire locker room, the entire New York media, and almost 90% of their fan base. Come on, man. Seriously. Luke Luna says, Larry, from the start of watching, at least for me, Dan was with you. Yeah, Danny was a sponsor originally, and then I realized that he would love to be on talking, and I invited him on. Oh, look at this one. Is this true? Ranger 49, the Dodgers signed Austin Wynns. Hope Bart can stay healthy. Something tells me the Giants will be able to find an Austin Wynns replacement if they need to. No cap. Hey, Larry, did you see Woj on NBA Countdown before the game yesterday saying Clay's expecting a max contract extension this summer? I wouldn't give it to him. I wouldn't either. That's interesting. I'd love to go to the finish line with Draymond, Steph, and Clay, but I used to think that if there was one that I wouldn't go to the finish line with, it would be Draymond. But after watching this season, I think if there's one I wouldn't go to the finish line with, it would be Clay. And I think Clay had a really good year, and he's a big part of Warrior basketball. But I don't see quite the same player, even though he's still a hell of a player. I'd like to go to the finish line with all three, but if he needs a max deal for whatever reason, I can't go there. I can't go max. What else? Clarsard, Niners are cheapskates. What? Once again, if your premise is wrong, your conclusion's wrong. But he says, Niners are cheapskates. Larry, how would trading Lance work, especially with the dead cap? Yeah, there would be about a $10 million dead cap hit. They would have to redo probably McCaffrey's deal, which would give them about $8.5 million, a little bit more. And they would have a total cap hit at that point of about $1.5 million. So, there are people that have thrown that out there as like, that's the reason that they won't move Lance. I don't believe that's the case. I believe that they could get around that. I mean, there's an awful lot of people right before the beginning of free agency that were saying the Niners don't have any money to spend. And 48 hours later, Javon Hargrave is, got a massive record-setting deal. So I think it's safe to say the cap can be, worked around. How many people told me I was wrong in July and August when I told everybody that Brock Purdy, and forget July and August, in June in minicamp, when I tweeted out that Brock Purdy was going to beat out Nate Sudfeld for the final roster spot at quarterback. And I was told by no less than 20 or 30 people, oh, you moron, don't you know that they've guaranteed Sudfeld, $3 million. Oh, you're an idiot. Really? They paid Sudfeld that $3 million, and they went with Brock Purdy. So who was the idiot? Darren, in the words of Larry, we're going to be hearing about the 21 season for the next 5 fucking years. LOL. You're talking about the Giants 21 season, yeah. Man, it sure looks like an aberration. Darren says, are the Jets going to trade Zach Wilson? I believe they will. I do. But I don't know about that because, his value is so low that they probably will wait for it to go back up before they move him. That's the feeling I get. And also, they can just basically tell Zach Wilson, sit. I also don't know what's the deal with Aaron Rodgers. Is Rodgers going to go to the Jets on draft night, Thursday the 27th? Or is Rodgers going to ride off into the sunset and retire? I don't think anybody knows the answer to that question. I expect Rodgers to be a Jet, but I don't know. Rodgers is his own cat. You know what I mean? He'll do his own thing. MF, Larry, are you doing the Niners interviews again? Ask Sam Darnold about the surf in San Clemente. Okay. It's not finalized yet, but it looks like I am. So we'll see. Nothing confirmed yet. We'll have more on that in the weeks ahead. Jets gang. Larry, stop his teammates. Stop. His teammates said Purdy's the quarterback. Larry, stop. His teammates said Purdy, quarterback. Jets gang. Larry, none of Lance's teammates vouched for him. Well, when you say vouch, nobody's coming out saying that Trey needs to start over Brock because Trey himself doesn't believe that Trey needs to start over Brock. Trey has said that Brock needs to start. So, yeah, but as far as not vouch for him, that's not true either. There's lots of guys in that room that feel real strongly about Trey Lance and his potential. But Trey needs to play, and he needs to develop. And that's it. I mean, he needs to play, he needs to develop. But I've never heard one guy, you got to remember this. I'm looking these guys in the eye. I'm talking to them face to face. The camera's on, the camera's off. The mic is on, the mic is off. I've got guys who say things to me all the time that are off the record. I've never had a Niner player off the record or on, for that matter, say anything or insinuate anything negative at all about Trey Lance as a player, as a person, his work ethic, his approach, his talent, how he's played. Nothing. So you're telling me that they don't vouch for him? Just because they're not pounding the table saying he demands, he needs to play doesn't mean they don't vouch for him. All right. Jets gang says, I guess nobody's seen the Jets wide receiver with the Zach shirts. I haven't seen it. You're saying it exists? I'll say this. I'm not with everybody else. I think Zach Wilson can play. I'm a Zach Wilson fan. So you want to rip me for that? Rip me for that. But, I'll be right before it's all said and done. I'll be right because that kid's coming back and he's going to play good ball. Maple Noob says, Krug, don't listen to the peeps in the chat. They all think they're general managers when they really don't know shit. It makes me laugh. Sacktown Izzy, Krug, those same guarantees that were on Sudfeld, you can say the same about Darnold. No, different. Sudfeld was guaranteed $2 million. They've got a package of incentives that can bring Darnold's pay to near $13 million. Darnold's deal is more in line with the Jimmy deal. So then that's also kind of interesting. Why is Sam Darnold, who was a starter last year and played at the end of last year and was playing his best football, why on day one of free agency did he sign with the 49ers to be their third-string quarterback within all these incentives for games started if he didn't think he was going to have a damn good chance to start? So does he think he's beating out Trey Lance? Is he betting on himself? Possibly. Or did somebody say, Sam, you're actually going to start because Brock's not going to be here, and oh yeah, Trey's not going to be here? I don't know, but it did seem odd that a guy would, on the first day of free agency, sign up to be the number 3 quarterback. I mean, I know Shanahan's an attractive offensive coach. I know the Niners are an attractive team. I know Sam Darnold needs to rebuild himself. But wow, that is interesting. MF says the Niners locker room is good. No toxic environment. No, it's a very good room. You know, that's the other thing. People always say Shanahan's not a good leader. That's such a bunch of garbage. Shanahan's a really good leader. As far as what do I attribute a good leader to? Do the guys in the room play hard? The Niners, I think, play consistently hard. And then do the guys in the room, do you believe in the head coach as a person and the head coach's scheme? I think they believe in Kyle as a person. I think they like him as a person. And I think they really believe in his scheme. And they believe his offense produces points. That's a wrap. That means he's a good leader right there. Some people who define it want to see him take the blame for everything. It's not necessarily in his personality to do that. Maybe that's a weakness that he needs to work on. MF says the Charvarius Ward interview was so good, Larry. My favorite interview of the year, really, was the Charvarius Ward. Why? Because I talked very little, and he talked. I finally figured out a way to interview somebody, get a bunch of insights, and not spend all the time talking. You know, and I basically said to him, hey, let's talk receivers, man. I go, you're a corner. You know receivers. I go, let's just talk receivers. And he's like, man, let's do it. So then I'm like, I'm just going to name a receiver. And we went through all the receivers on the Niners, and he gave me his thoughts on each one of them. And then we went through all the great receivers in the league, and he started spitting out their idiosyncrasies and what stood out, and D-Hop and Justin Jennings and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I mean, it was really cool. It was really cool. And at the end of the interview, I was like, man, that was freaking awesome, man. Then I went back and listened to it, and I'm like, I basically didn't even ask questions. I was just like, Justin Jefferson. Then he'd go off for 2.5 minutes or whatever. Be like, tell me about T. Higgins, whatever it was. Tell me about Debo, Ayuk. And I loved it because I looked up at the end. I'm like, you know what? I talked hardly at all, and he talked most of the time. And there were some great freaking answers. And I'm telling you, the best interviews you could ever do are go ask defensive players about offensive players. Go ask offensive players about defensive players. You know your opponent. You study your opponent. You watch cut-up films of your opponent. You want to know about a good corner? Go ask a quarterback. You want to know who's a great defensive lineman? Go ask an offensive lineman. It's really as simple as that. Those guys know their competition well. Jets gang, Larry, what is Mac Jones worth? That's a good question. Maybe 3, maybe a third round pick, maybe a second. Mac Jones is ready to play. Mac Jones, the ball comes out on time. Mac Jones is Brock Purdy without the mobility. There's a lot to like with Mac Jones. I didn't like him in the draft because I thought, man, you're going to trade up to the 3rd pick in the draft for Mac Jones? But I kind of saw the genius of Mac Jones in year 1 in New England. The guy is pretty accurate, and the ball comes out on time. And that's a big part about playing the position. The ball's got to come out on time. If the ball, unlike other jobs, you can't just get there early and you're covered. No. The balls, you got to be on time in pro football, especially at quarterback. Mac Jones, the ball comes out on time with a lot of accuracy. But there was something about his personality and he just didn't sound super smart, and everybody was saying he's incredibly smart. Really? Usually if you're incredibly smart, you kind of sound incredibly smart. He doesn't sound incredibly smart in interviews, but I think it's pretty clear that, he digested that offense, but he definitely regressed in year 2. Was that Matt Patricia as the OC? Possibly. Was it the fact that his weapons suck? Possibly. Or, did the league adjust to him? That's possible as well. But I think Mac Jones actually is a pretty solid NFL quarterback. 187, can you request interviews with players in the offseason, Larry? It's difficult. I have, and I know some of the media people have had more success than I've had doing this. But I've just got to go right to their agents instead of dealing with the team. J-Tan says, Larry, you got that down to earth tone down. You've got that down to earth tone down while interviewing. Thank you. Yeah, you know what? The best interviews I did all year, I'd go up to somebody and be like, hey, man, where are you from? Tell me about yourself. That usually was the best. Much better than if I started it. Last week, on Sunday, you broke on a ball. It's like, but if you get a guy just talking about himself or his life or whatever, I do enjoy talking to the Niner players too, because it's like football players are, they're pretty simple. Their life is about eating and lifting and training and, and whoever they love, their families, their girlfriend, their wife, their kids, that's really, it's all consuming. It's about film and lifting and diet and spending time with those they love. And who can't relate to that, right? I think we all can relate to that. MF, that was my most favorite 49er Insider content season. Thanks to Larry for the content. Yeah, and if we do wind up doing that again, MF, the content this year is even going to be better. It's going to be even better. Because the content late in the year was incredible, I thought, because I actually knew the players. They knew me. Everybody knew where everybody was coming from, and we got some incredible stuff. And so if I wind up doing that again this year and bringing that content out, it's going to be even better, bigger and better and awesome. MF says the J.D. Davis interview was also good. Yeah, and I'm going to be, I've been so busy doing the Warriors and the Niner content creator stuff that I haven't gone into the Giant Clubhouse since they got back from Arizona. But I am working on that. I'll have my credential for the second homestand, and I'll be down there in the clubhouse interviewing guys and bringing you more of that content. Yeah, but J.D. Davis is a terrific guy, and he's raking. He's from Sac, Elk Grove kid. Terrific addition. What a trade for Farhan. That was an awesome trade. All right, that's going to do it for us. Hey, have a great Sunday to everybody. I'm going to watch a little Giants. Are the Giants in a delay? It's in a delay. But are we going to get I'm not sure if we're going to get it's not been canceled, so the game's delayed. All right, so I'm going to hopefully watch a little Giants baseball. We got a full week on the show coming up. Keep it locked on the Krueg Show for all your top-tier content. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to Grant Napear. Thanks to our sponsors. And until next time, we're out.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you won't get exactly what you asked for. Careful, whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't